Warrior Lore. Chapter 2857. Since it was an oil lamp, it was hard to avoid the flickering of the flame. The flickering of light and shadow in the cave clearly showed the strangeness of soul cultivators. Deliberately mystifying. Xiaohua snorted again. As they sat down, a few young disciples immediately served them tea. Of course, these young disciples had long faces like Qing Ming. They came and left quietly, without even a smile. Little friend Xiao, and Miss Hongxia. Master Qin raised his teacup and smiled. My tea is not as good as the spirit tea of Taoist sect. Please don't mind. Please. I don't deserve it. Thank you. Li Zongbao answered briefly. He also raised his teacup and took a sip. After checking that there was nothing wrong with the tea, he swallowed it. Actually, I don't usually use tea. Master Qin was a straightforward person. It's just that some cultivators came from afar, so they asked my disciples to simply boil the mountain spring water and use it to complement the tea. Master, you're too polite. Fairy Hongxia smiled and said, currently, the millions of Ming mountains are extremely dry. It's good enough that we have spring water to boil the tea. Sigh. Excellent. Master Qin sighed. This astronomical change is the beginning of a great change in the millions of Ming mountains. There will definitely be earth-shaking changes in the future. Unfortunately, those ordinary natives are innocent. I'm afraid they won't be able to escape from this catastrophe. Master, Ziming said anxiously, I came here today for two things. The first thing is this. All the people of Hutu Stronghold and Shibai Stronghold are struggling on the line between life and death. Although some soul cultivators have already set their sights on the millions of Ming mountains and led their disciples into Sword Domain, it is still a temporary solution. No one knows if Sword Domain can save the lives of the people of the 12 great gods. I hope that Master can be merciful and bestow a miraculous method to save hundreds of millions of natives. Sigh. If I had a miraculous method, I would have used it long ago. Why would I wait until now? Master Qin shook his head. This is an astronomical disaster. It's not something that can be solved by humans. Seeing that Master Qin was also helpless, Ziming was a little disappointed. Then, Master Qin asked, how's the battle between soul cultivators and swordsmen going? Perhaps killing our way into the sword domain isn't a solution, but it might be effective in the end? The war will be handled by Shang village and the others. Our Huta village and Shibai village will not participate directly. Ziming shook his head slightly. However, I heard that the battle went very smoothly. Those swordsmen didn't have any power to fight back under the attacks of my soul warriors. Master Qin nodded slightly and said, actually, since Ming Mountain has undergone such a great change, the sword domain and the 3 kingdoms of cultivation must have undergone great changes as well. As he spoke, he looked at Li Zongbao and the others before continuing. The Dao sect's dharma is incomparably wondrous. Perhaps there's a better way? Li Zongbao looked at Fairy Hongxia, not knowing how to reply. Ziming continued, I've also sent my people to the Sword region and the 3 kingdoms. Even Elder Wu and G-Man from the lower camp have been to these places. It seems like they are different from our Ming mountains. Even if they have a solution, it's not suitable for our Ming mountains. Sigh. Forgive this old man for being powerless in this matter. Master Qin sighed compassionately. His skinny figure seemed even smaller. However, Ziming's second request, this old man, will agree to it today. Really? Ziming was overjoyed. He almost jumped up and said, Master is indeed a trustworthy person. This junior thanks Master. You're welcome. Master Qin laughed. You've brought the shaman token to me 3 times. Even if this old man doesn't owe your shaman village any favors, this item is related to the prosperity of the shaman village. This old man can't refuse. However, because this is my 3rd time crafting a soul treasure, this old man has to be more cautious. I need to prepare for a few more days. Furthermore, the soul falling lamp of your Huta village is extremely mysterious. This old man doesn't have much confidence in repairing this soul treasure. You shouldn't be too happy too early. What? Master, this is already your 3rd time crafting a soul treasure? Hearing Master Qin's words, Ziming was not as happy as Master Qin said. Instead, he was extremely surprised and said, This junior thought that this was your second time crafting. If I knew this was your third time, this junior, if you knew this was my third time crafting, you wouldn't have come? Master Qin laughed and said, This third time will come sooner or later. Furthermore, this soul-falling lamp is extremely important to you and to the Huda village. This old man being able to repair this soul-falling lamp for the third time is also the fate of this old man in this lifetime. Xiaohua, who was at the side, was surprised. He said coldly, Master Qin, this is a little strange. You can only craft 3 soul treasures in your lifetime? Hee. Master Qin's face was abnormally dry. His skin was like a dried orange peel wrapped around his face, and his small head was comparable to a skeleton. Previously, Xiaohua only noticed a scar across his face, but now, under the light, he could see it even more clearly. That smile was very strange, and coupled with that face. Under the light, it was really somewhat repulsive. Young Master Xiao, Ziming could clearly hear the dissatisfaction in Xiaohua's voice, and even the misunderstanding. He hurriedly said, Ming Mountain's crafting of soul tools is different from the Taoist sect's crafting of magical treasures. Every time we craft a soul tool, we need to consume life essence. Especially for a soul treasure like the soul-falling lamp, the consumption is even greater. Although Grandmaster's crafting skill is one of the best in Ming Mountain, but he can only craft 3 soul treasures in his lifetime. After fixing the soul-losing lamp for me, his life essence will be exhausted, and he will return to the arms of Huda Goddess. Ah? There's such a saying? Xiaohua was stunned. Therefore, although there are many master craftsmen in Ming Mountain, most of them will not craft soul tools for others, let alone soul treasures. Ziming explained again, only Grandmaster Qin would not refuse anyone who came to his door to craft a soul tool. Therefore, Grandmaster Qin's reputation in Ming Mountain is very good. But later, because Grandmaster's life essence was used up too much, many soul warriors who received Grandmaster Qin's favor joined hands and sealed off the guest reception platform where Grandmaster Qin was. No one could look for Grandmaster Qin anymore. But the Grandmaster was merciful. He personally chiseled the stairway to heaven from the valley to the welcoming platform. He earnestly invited the spirit warriors and made an agreement. If there was someone who needed to craft a spirit armament, as long as they could sit on the welcoming platform for a sufficient amount of time and use the stairway to reach the valley, the Grandmaster would be able to craft the spirit armament for them. When the soul warriors saw Grandmaster Qin's determination, they knew that they could not stop him, so they all knelt on the ground and left. At this point, Ziming looked at the darkness outside the cave and sighed. This guest reception platform is said to be a test, but what's so difficult about it? Young Master Xiao has walked all the way here. How could you see any difficulties? This is actually Grandmaster Qin's merciful heart. If someone were to craft a soul tool, they would first carefully consider whether or not the soul tool was worth Grandmaster Qin's life essence. Whether or not the soul tool was worth Grandmaster Qin's life essence. Whether or not the soul tool was worth Grandmaster Qin's life. Young Master, don't look at Qingming's cold face. When we came down, we might be summoned by Huda God. When Xiaohua heard this, he was shocked. He did not know the secrets of soul cultivators crafting soul tools, but he was originally a craftsman. If crafting a soul tool, and even if it was a soul tool, could actually shorten his lifespan, then to tell the truth, even if he was beaten to death, he would not craft it. What's more, the person who wanted to craft the soul tool had nothing to do with him. Not waiting for Ziming to finish speaking, Xiaohua stood up and walked in front of Grandmaster Qin. He bowed and said, Grandmaster Qin, this junior has misunderstood you. My previous words were offensive. Please forgive me, senior. It's fine. Grandmaster Qin still had a smile on her face, but this smile made Xiaohua look very benevolent. It was far from the strange smile from before. Grandmaster Qin raised her hand, indicating for Xiaohua to rise. Although she didn't use any of the magic power that Tao sect cultivators often used, Xiaohua couldn't help but stand up. He was afraid that if he was any slower, he would blaspheme this magnanimous soul cultivation grandmaster. This junior has always believed that I do not judge a book by its cover. But when it comes to this matter, this kind of narrow-minded thinking can't help but appear. Xiaohua didn't try to hide anything. He straightened up and spoke with a pained voice. Furthermore, this junior also knows some of the soul tool crafting techniques of the Dao sect. Judging others by my own standards immediately magnified my originally dark thoughts. This concubine really admires young master's magnanimity. Ziming's eyes flashed with joy. If young master is a craftsman, then you will definitely have Grandmaster Kuchin's heart in the future. AI, this junior also has some distracting thoughts. Li Zongbao stood up and bowed. In front of Grandmaster Kuchin, this junior also has to bow. Don't. Grandmaster Kuchin laughed. Don't stand up. Regardless of whether it's you or me. We are all humans, not gods. We cannot judge people by their hearts. This has always been the most important thing. This old one was also like this when he was young. But later on, with some luck, he slowly changed. You are so young, yet you can understand this. In the future, your actions will definitely surpass this old one. Grandmaster's bearing of risking her life to craft soul tools. This junior will definitely not do that. Xiao Hua's heart was calm, and his words were clear and bright. Don't speak so highly of this old one. Grandmaster Kuchin actually stretched out her thin and small hand. Ziming brought the Hutu Stockade shaman token to this old one. This old one didn't dare to disobey. Ha ha ha. Grandmaster must be joking. Ziming shook his head slightly. The shaman token has no effect on Grandmaster. Sister. Fairy Hong Xia was about to stand up and bow again, but was stopped by Grandmaster Kuchin. At this moment, she found an opportunity to ask Ziming, why does Grandmaster Kuchin have to repair this soul-loss lamp? And why did you consume life essence when you were crafting soul tools? -11. Chapter 28:58. Hearing that, Ziming was not surprised and laughed. I have long wanted to explain this to young Master Xiao and the rest, and there are some matters related to young Master Xiao. But this matter is very important. Only with Master Kuchin here can I be at ease to explain. Even if my sister did not ask, I still have to say it. Of course, as for my soul refining method, I do not know the details, so I will have to ask Master Xiao to answer. I can only explain the reason why the fallen soul lamp must be restored to young Master Xiao and the rest. Oh? Hearing that this matter was related to him, Xiao Hua was startled, but he changed his mind, and immediately understood, and laughed and nodded. Xiao Hua nodded, and Fairy Hong Xia was once again in a fog, not knowing what was going on. At this time, Ziming patted his hand, and from his waist, a palm-sized brocade bag took out a black object. This object was about a foot tall, and was divided into two parts. The top part was a fist-sized weird beast head, and the bottom part was like a mountain peak, sharp at the top and round at the bottom. However, upon closer inspection, it was different. The strange beast's head split into three under the light. The three heads were clustered together in the middle, forming a beast's mouth. This beast's mouth was pointing straight at the sky. It seemed to have some fangs, but they couldn't see clearly. The beast's mouth was empty. Also, the lower part of the fallen soul lamp had the same weird pattern. These patterns seemed to be white bones, but also like a skeleton, piled up together. It looked like a beast body. The soul-stealing lamp was abnormally dark. When the light of the lamp landed on it, it was immediately absorbed. There was no reflection, but the so-called shape was faintly discernible to the naked eye, as if it was the flickering light of the lamp. Dog heads? The beast heads of the fallen soul lamp had a sinister and ferocious expression, but their shape was familiar. Xiao Hua couldn't help but think to himself, a lamp made from three dog heads. Maybe the lamp was spat out from the dog mouths? This is my Ho-Tu stronghold spirit treasure, the fallen soul lamp. Ziming took out the soulfall lamp and twirled it in his hand. He proudly said, this thing hasn't been lit up yet. If Master Kuchin can repair it this time, my Huta stronghold will immediately regain its former glory. Young Master Xiao, even if the nascent soul cultivators of your Dao sect are very powerful, if they are enveloped by the lamp of the fallen soul, Their lives will be at my disposal. Oh my God, you're making my little heart jump. Xiao Hua pats his chest exaggeratedly and says with a smile, "It seems that no matter what, this Xiao can't let Master Kachin repair this fallen soul lamp. Or perhaps, this Xiao will have to consider whether or not to take the soul-fall lamp." Hee. Back then, young Master Xiao used the soul-falling lamp. Ziming said meaningfully, "Back then, young Master didn't even want it. What are you planning to do now?" "Oh?" Xiao Hua stared blankly for a moment, then immediately understood, and said with some disbelief, "What? That day, Midnight actually took this soul lamp to Sky Patrol City? There was something like this in the storage pouch? This Xiao really can't believe it?" Ziming smiles and looks at Master Kachin. Refining a spiritual servant naturally requires this soul-falling lamp. Otherwise, Midnight wouldn't have brought this soul-falling lamp to Sky Patrol City. Spiritual servant? Hearing this, Xiao Hua squints his eyes, as if thinking of something. "Sister, didn't you say that this soul-falling lamp hasn't been repaired?" Fairy Hong Xia asks curiously, "Then how can Midnight use it?" The soul-falling lamp is a spirit treasure. Legend has it that it was passed down by the great god Hutu. Its functions are mysterious. Although it hasn't been repaired and can't be lit up, it still has other small functions. Ziming smiles. "If that's the case, why must it be lit up?" Fairy Hong Xia asks curiously. "This soul-falling lamp hasn't been lit up for many years. Now that it's repaired, Master Ku Chin's life will be sacrificed?" Sigh. "If I wasn't forced into a dead end, how could this concubine do this?" Ziming sighs and loosens his hand. The soul-falling lamp flew into the air, and a strange black shadow covers the entire cave. Although this soul-falling lamp is a spirit treasure, it's also my Hutu stronghold's inherited treasure. Ziming looks up at the soul-falling lamp and says faintly, "But if the next generation Elder Wu or G-Man wants to inherit, they must light up the soul-falling lamp. Only when the soul-falling lamp is lit up will it mean that they have received the approval of the great god Hutu. Ziming is not talented, but I am the next G-Man candidate. If Ziming wants to become G-Man, the only way is to light up the soul-falling lamp." G-Man? Xiao Hua and the rest were stunned. They knew that Ziming's status in the Hutu stronghold was not ordinary, but they never thought that it would be so high up. Under one person, above 10,000 people, or even the one at the top. Ziming glanced at Li Zongbao and said faintly, "Moreover, according to our ancestors, if you control the soul-catching lamp, you might be able to control the mysteries of life and death, and you might be able to revive the dead. In this world, young Master Li is not the only one who wants to revive the dead." Ziming's voice is bitter, floating in the cave. Following the shadow of the soul-falling lamp, a kind of desolation suddenly rises. "Miss Ziming," Li Zongbao also sighs in his heart. He thinks for a moment and asks, "This soul-falling lamp has been damaged for a long time, right? Otherwise, it would be impossible to ask Master Ku Chin for help now. Perhaps Mrs. Second reason is the main point." Hearing this, Ziming does not hide, and says with a nod, "Young Master Li is right. This second reason is the most important. As for this soul-falling lamp, it has been damaged for thousands of years. However, my Hutu stronghold has never had many children. The one who can inherit Elder Wu and G-Man has always been only one person. There will not be any disputes, and no one will care whether this soul-falling lamp is lit or not. But my generation is different. There is more than one person who is qualified to inherit G-Man or Elder Wu. Although I am in front of the line, if I can't light up the soul-falling lamp, I am afraid that I will not be able to sit firmly in the position of G-Man." "So that's how it is." Xiao Hua nods, but suddenly asks again, "Z also has this qualification, right?" "That's right, of course Z has it." Ziming smiles sweetly, "But he will not fight with me. He came to the world a moment later than me. Moreover, since we are sensible, we have sworn together that we will not spoil the relationship between siblings because of this position. Young Master Xiao, don't worry. Even if I become the younger sister, I will definitely not fight with Ziyi." That's for the best." Xiao Hua's heart suddenly relaxed, and he smiles and nods, In this world, all benefits are not as important as family. I know that young Master Xiao will say that. Ziming smiles again. Actually, I have already told Ziyi that if he wants to be Elder Wu, he only needs to say a word to me. I will definitely not fight with him. Very good. Xiao Hua believes that Ziyi can say such words. That's the reason why I came here. Ziming continues, however. The fact that the soulfall lamp cannot be lit has always been a secret of our Hutu stronghold. Even many elders Wu and Ji-Man do not know about it. After all, this soulfall lamp is a precious treasure and is usually enshrined in the ancestral hall. Only I knew that when I had to light this soulfall lamp, I begged Elder Wu to go to the ancestral hall to take it out. It was only then that I realized that something was wrong. How is that possible? Fairy Hongxia is puzzled. From what you said, this soulfall lamp has been damaged for thousands of years. How can so many elders Wu and Ji-Man not know about it? Whether the ancestors know or not, I don't know. Ziming smiles mysteriously, but the current elders Wu and Ji-Man definitely do not know about it. Otherwise, they would not have urged me to light up the soulfall lamp. As for the fact that the soulfall lamp has been damaged for thousands of years, it is recorded in the soulfall lamp. When I got it, I knew about it. But how it was damaged, and who damaged it, there is no explanation. The fact that the soulfall lamp cannot be lit, I have kept it a secret for a long time, and now it has come to a point where I can no longer keep it a secret. Besides, if the other descendants know about this, I'm afraid there will be a dispute in our Hutu stronghold. Now that there is a great change in Ming Mountains, it is no different from a great disaster to our Hutu stronghold. So, I have to be careful. Ziming finally got to the point. Hiss. After hearing Ziming's words, Xiao Hua suddenly understood the importance of the soulfall lamp. At the same time, his heart suddenly felt heavy. When Midnight gave him the storage bag that day, he didn't just give him Qixin, but also the safety of the Hutu stronghold. Karma. In an instant, the space around Xiao Hua trembled again. His nascent divinity, which was comprehending the hand of karma, felt as if it was struck by lightning. An indescribable mystery was transmitted into his mind. Ziming did not notice Xiao Hua's abnormality and continued. In the early years, I also thought of all kinds of ways to light up the soulfall lamp, and I even paid a heavy price. Later, I had no choice but to ask Wu Ling for help. I visited Master Ku Qin 3 times, hoping that he could help. However, I heard that Master still has 2 more chances to refine a soul treasure, so I took the risk to visit him. I didn't expect. Master Ku Qin met Ziming's apologetic gaze and did not care. On his ugly face, the expression in his eyes was very calm. Of course, Master. Ziming smiled again. I know that Master will consume your life essence because of this, and I have been trying my best to find a way to make up for it all these years. Coincidentally, when Ziyi went to Sky Patrol City, not only did he get to know a confidant like young Master Xiao, but he also brought back a spiritual medicine from the Dao sect. This spiritual medicine should be useful to Master. As he spoke, Ziming took out a jade box from the brocade bag at his waist and offered it with both hands. However, this is the last time Master will refine a soul treasure, and your life essence has been overdrawn. I don't know if this thing is still useful. Oh? Master Ku Qin was surprised. He reached out and took the jade box. After opening it and looking at it, he asked, What kind of medicinal pill is this? It looks a little strange. -11. Chapter 28:59. This is the mysterious rejuvenation pill of the Dao sect. Z only got 3 of them from the Sky Patrol City. I've already given one of them to Elder Wu. After Elder Wu took it, he regained his youth and looked even younger than me. Ziming smiled. I'll give this rejuvenation pill to you. Perhaps it can offset the loss of life essence from refining a spirit treasure. There's such a miraculous pill in this world? Master Ku Qin was shocked. I wonder which immortal could refine such a miraculous pill. As he spoke, Master Ku Qin's body flashed with an obscure fluctuation. The space within a few feet of him was slightly distorted. The rejuvenation pill in his hand flew into the air, and the pill's shadow flickered in and out of existence. After waiting for half a cup of tea's worth of time, A violent fluctuation rippled out from the surroundings of the rejuvenation pill. An indescribable hurricane swept through the entire cave. This hurricane was different from the usual wind. Once it was formed, it immediately rushed in all directions, seeping into the walls of the cave and blowing out of the cave. Hiss, Master Kuchin gasped. After the hurricane, he looked at the traces of green lines on the mountain walls. His face was filled with surprise and disbelief. He whispered, "Not bad, this miraculous pill is actually filled with the power of thunder. This power of life can replenish the life essence I use to refine a spirit treasure. After taking this pill, I can refine a spirit treasure again." Good. Ziming clapped his hands and said, "If that's the case, I can rest assured." Thank you, Ziming. Although Master Ku Qin's temperament was outstanding and he did not care about life and death, this was life and death after all. Since he could survive, he was happy. This is what I'll do. Ziming beamed with joy and said, "Master, do you want to take it now or after repairing the lost soul lamp?" This, Grandmaster Kuchin pondered for a moment, then smiled. This immortal pill contains the power of thunder. Although it can replenish life essence, the power of thunder is the opposite of my secret soul cultivation method. If this old man takes it now, I don't know how long it will take for the lamp to be repaired. It's not too late to take it after repairing the lost soul lamp. Grandmaster, please weigh the pros and cons yourself. Ziming naturally knew the severity of the situation and nodded with a smile. Putting away the rejuvenation pill, Grandmaster Kuchin raised her head again. Outside the cave stood a dozen or so soul warriors of different heights. It was impossible to see the expressions of these soul warriors in the dark. Grandmaster Kuchin ordered Qingming to come in. Smiling, Qingming explained the situation to Qingming. Finally, a smile appeared on Qingming's face. Bowing to Ziming and the others, he happily led his disciples away. The Tao sect spells are indeed profound. Grandmaster Kuchin also relaxed when she saw that all the disciples had left in satisfaction. She was once again in a leisurely mood as she sighed and said, "The rise of the Tao sect is not without reason." Hee, Master. Ziming's face lit up as he said, "Junior wanted to give Grandmaster the rejuvenation pill, but I didn't expect that Huda Great God would send this alchemist here as well. I guess Huda Great God must have seen Grandmaster's magnanimity and knew how much Grandmaster had done for Ming Mountains. That's why she sent this alchemist here to save Grandmaster's life." Oh? Grandmaster Kuchin was shocked. She hurriedly stood up from her seat and looked around. She walked towards Xiao Hua and bowed. "Immortal Master Xiao, please accept my bow." Who would have thought that after Grandmaster Kuchin bowed, Xiao Hua only looked at her indifferently. He did not move at all, as if he was being extremely rude. Xiao Hua. Fairy Hongxia was shocked. She looked at Xiao Hua's half-smiling face and hurriedly said to Grandmaster Kuchin, "Grandmaster, Xiao Hua probably had some enlightenment just now. Right now, he is," but before Fairy Hongxia could finish, Xiao Hua's eyes moved slightly. Countless stars flashed in his eyes. In this somewhat dark cave, it was extremely obvious. Grandmaster Kuchin was facing Xiao Hua at this moment. Hearing Fairy Hongxia's reminder, she raised her head in surprise. When her gaze landed on Xiao Hua's eyes, she was even more shocked. She was stunned for a moment. Then, she shuddered and a trace of horror flashed in her eyes. At this moment, Xiao Hua seemed as if he had just woken up from a dream. He looked at Grandmaster Kuchin strangely. Cough cough, Fairy Hongxia hurriedly said, "Xiao Hua, Grandmaster Kuchin is thanking you." "Thanking me? Thanking me for what?" Xiao Hua scratched his head in confusion. Hee, young Master Xiao, about the matter of the rejuvenation pill. Ziming laughed. This concubine has already given the rejuvenation pill that Zai obtained from young Master to Grandmaster. Young Master Xiao has hidden it from Zai for a long time. However, this matter cannot be scrutinized. Zai has already secretly told this concubine. He suspects that you are that mysterious alchemy Grandmaster. You won't deny it, right? Rejuvenation pill? Alchemy Grandmaster? Hearing this, Li Zongbao narrowed his eyes and looked at Xiao Hua thoughtfully. Hee, if it was someone else, this little one would not admit it, even if he was beaten to death. Xiao Hua laughed, however, facing Grandmaster Kachin. Even if this little one was beaten to death, he would still admit it. At this moment, Grandmaster Kachin seemed to have returned to normal. There was a faint smile on her face. She stood in front of Xiao Hua and patiently listened to his words. Although Grandmaster Kachin's height was only 3/2 of Xiao Hua's height, Grandmaster Kachin did not seem to be uneasy standing there. If you continue to be so long-winded, I won't care about the millions of Ming Mountain people anymore. Thank you, Huda God. Thank you, Shibi God. Thank you, 12 gods of Ming Mountain. Ziming couldn't help but mutter. Young Master Xiao is actually Master Xiao. The people of Ming Mountain can be saved. Grandmaster, please sit down and talk. Xiao Hua lowered his head and looked at Grandmaster Kachin. His neck was really sore, so he could only smile and say, "Please." Grandmaster Kachin invited Xiao Hua to sit next to her, and then she carefully accompanied him. After all, Xiao Hua was not only an alchemist who concocted the rejuvenation pill, but also a benefactor who could save millions of Ming Mountain people. How could Grandmaster Kachin dare to treat him poorly? Actually, looking at Grandmaster Kachin and Ziming's eager eyes, Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Regarding the millions of Ming Mountain people, I already have a plan, and I've already started to implement it in Bai Lu Stronghold." Great. Ziming and Grandmaster Kachin looked at each other, and their previous worries immediately disappeared. Ziming thought for a moment and understood. He smiled and said, "Young Master Xiao, the matter of Bai Lu Stronghold, is it related to young Master Xiao Mao?" "That's right." Xiao Hua was also calm. "If it wasn't because I wanted to help Xiao Mao return to Shibi Stronghold and get what he deserved, I would have already told you about this matter." "Hehe, young Master Xiao, since you want to help Xiao Mao, then all the more reason you should tell me about this matter." Ziming smiled and said, "As long as I can get Grandmaster Kachin's help and repair the Soulfall lamp, I'll be the next G-Man. My Hotian Stronghold and Shibi Stronghold are on the same side. With my Hotian Stronghold supporting Xiao Mao, what worries do you have?" -11. Chapter 2860. Indeed. After Xiao Hua heard this, he nodded and said, "This is also something that I want to discuss with Ziming after rescuing Xiao Mao. It's all right. Master Qin Qin is here, and young Master Xiao is Zai's good friend. How can Ziming forget Daoist Zhao's contribution?" Ziming smiled and said, "Besides, in my opinion, Daoist Xiao seems to be more reliable than Xiao Mao, right?" Xiao Hua thought for a while. Although he didn't trust Ziming too much, with Master Qin Qin by his side, he really admired this master. Seeing Master Qin Qin's smiling face, he reached out his hand and took out a storage bag. He handed it to Ziming and said, "This is the millet seed I got from a deserted island outside the sea. It was planted together with the rice used by the cultivators in the Three Kingdoms. If the rice seed can be used, then the millet seed can also be used." "Good." Ziming's eyes flashed with surprise. He slowly reached out his hand and took it. When he opened the storage bag, he frowned and said, "Why is there only so little?" "I remember. Ha ha ha, these are seeds. Ziming, they are not for you to eat." Xiao Hua laughed. This Ziming was indeed a noble of Hutu village. He probably wasn't familiar with farming. Ziming suddenly understood. He hit his own forehead and said with a smile, "I was wrong." Xiao Hua was very familiar with this action. It was exactly the same as what Ziyi did that day. Hehe, they are really twins. Xiao Hua thought to himself. However, he also lowered his guard against Ziming. Then Xiao Hua said, "I still have some of this millet seed. It should be enough for Huda village and Shebi village. As for the other shaman villages, after the two villages planted this millet seed, they can slowly circulate it to Ming Mountains. Thank you, young Master Xiao." Ziming understood the meaning of this action. He was really happy. He bowed and said, "With this millet seed, even if I don't have the soul-falling lamp, I'm afraid I can still get the position of G-Man." "No need to thank me." Xiao Hua waved his hand slightly. "You are Sister Zai, you can help Xiao Mao. Moreover, with your help, we can plant this millet seed in Ming Mountains. How can I not help you?" Sigh. Actually, I should have known that young Master Xiao was Daoist Master Xiao. At this point, Ziming hesitated for a moment before continuing. That day, young Master gave Ziyi a storage pouch. Zi remembered young master's instructions and had his subordinates distribute the seeds to the people of the secular world near the state of Shi. When he came back, he encountered the drought in Ming Mountains. Only then did he remember that you were a good seed of young master. However, at that time, Zai only saw young master as a close friend who had built his foundation. He never thought much about it. Zai is really considerate. Xiao Hua smiled. Unfortunately, I didn't know that he was from Ming Mountain. Otherwise, I might have been able to give him this seed that day. At this point, he watched Ziming carefully put away the storage bag and asked tentatively, I still have something to ask Miss Ming. Ziming smiled and said, Young Master Xiao, feel free to speak. What's going on with the Shibai village? Why did Xiao Mao, a pure god of Shi by bloodline, end up in the three kingdoms of cultivation? Xiao Hua had always been puzzled. Even Xiao Mao himself didn't know. This, Ziming was also troubled. She thought for a moment and shook her head slightly. This? I really don't know. This is the internal affairs of the Shibai village. It should also involve the secret of the witch elder or G-man. I've never been interested in it. Master, do you know? Xiao Hua asked Master and I-Chin. Master and I-Chin also shook her head. That's strange, Xiao Hua said curiously. Since no one knows, why would Yi Yu, a swordsman, chase after Xiao Mao? Yi Yu? Ziming's eyes turned slightly. She understood a little and said, this swordsman should be Ji-man's husband, the Fu man of Shibai village. If he chased after Xiao Mao, it would definitely cause internal strife in the Shibai village. Sai, it's very simple. Yi Yu was afraid that Xiao Mao would return to the Shibai village and affect his position. Yes, it would affect Ji-man's position. But, can a swordsman be the Fu man of a witch village? Xiao Hua was puzzled. Why not? Ziming smiled and said, apart from the witch elder and Ji-man, who must be the descendants of the great gods, the Fu man and Fu woman can be anyone else. Also, as far as I know, in the witch village under the jurisdiction of Huta village, there are many Taoist cultivators who practice soul spells and become Ming Mountain soul warriors. The sword realm is closer to Ming Mountains, so there are more swordsmen. Having said that, Ziming gave Grandmaster Qin a glance and continued, actually, without the bloodline of the 12 gods, it is impossible to cultivate the true soul spells of Ming Mountains. What they have cultivated is just the surface of the modified version. They can't understand the essence of the soul spells. As for true soul magics, they have to do with the bloodline, the soul, and the life essence. Master and I-Chin knew what Ziming meant and said, it's the same for refining soul tools. Could it be that with the bloodline of the 12 great gods, it's impossible to chant witchcraft incantations and connect the life essence with the soul tools, let alone the refining method? So that's how it is. Xiao Hua understood that the refining of soul tools was related to the Green Seal script. When the refiners of Ming Mountains refined soul tools, they were just like Yun Tengyu of Misty Cloud's sect. When they used the Green Seal script, they would immediately age and die. It was better not to learn this kind of refining. From what Taoist Xiao said, it seems that in addition to alchemy, you also know some refining techniques? Master and I-Chin said, may I have the honor of asking Taoist Xiao to repair this soul-falling lamp with me? Hearing Master and I-Chin's invitation, not only was Xiao Hua surprised, even Ziming was a little stunned. After all, Xiao Hua was a cultivator. Although Master and I-Chin didn't see the difference between cultivators and soul warriors, but the refining of soul tools was a secret of Ming Mountains. How could it be shown to others? However, Ziming soon realized something. Didn't he just say it? Without the bloodline of the 12 great gods, one couldn't control the true soul spells. Even if Xiao Hua saw the refining method, he couldn't practice it, right? Even if he saw it, what could he do? It's my honor to be favored by Master and I-Chin and be able to observe Master and I-Chin's refining technique. After Xiao Hua was surprised, he beamed with joy. He knew the art of soul cultivation. Although this art of soul cultivation was just a minor detail in the eyes of Ziming and Master and I-Chin, it was absolutely possible for him to gain some benefits from Master and I-Chin's refining technique. All right, Taoist Xiao, please go back and rest. 3 days later, I will ask Taoist Xiao to refine with me. Master and I Qin nodded and said, "Thank you, Master." Xiao Hua stood up. When he was about to leave, he suddenly remembered something and asked casually, "Master and I Qin, can you repair or refine a sorcerer puppet?" Sorcerer puppet? Master and I Qin was stunned. Then a wry smile appeared on her face. I didn't expect Taoist Xiao to know the name of sorcerer puppet of Ming Mountains. However, this sorcerer puppet is refined with all the life of a sorcerer, and it can only be refined once in a sorcerer's life. Not to mention that my soul cultivation has not reached such a level, and I am not a sorcerer. The secret method of refining sorcerer puppet has long been lost in Ming Mountains. If you want to truly refine it, I'm afraid you can only find it in the depths of Ming Mountains, where those sorcerers have not been in the world for a long time, right? What about Ming Mountains? Xiao Hua asked in a natural manner. Hee, I don't know. Master and I Qin laughed. Even the sorcerer and G-man of Huta village and Shibai village don't know. Then, Master and I Qin stood up, waved her hand and said, even the sorcerer villages of the descendants of the 12 great gods don't know. Why? Xiao Hua was puzzled. The vastness of this world is far beyond your imagination. The wonders of this world are also far beyond your imagination. So what if you know? So what if you don't know? When it's time for you to know, you'll know. When it's time for you to know, even if you want to know, you can't know. Master and I Qin said as she walked away, leaving Zi Ming and the other guests in the cave. Her voice once again traveled far in the darkness. When it's time for you to know, you'll know. When it's time for you to know, even if you want to know, you can't know. These words echoed in the valley for a long time. Master, you're right. Ziming clapped his hands and praised, you've enlightened me. Now that Master has left, what should we do? Xiao Hua smiled. Are we supposed to meditate here? Why not? Ziming also smiled. When it's time for you to meditate, you can meditate anywhere. When it's time for you to meditate, even if you want to meditate, there's no place for you to meditate. Ha ha ha. Xiao Hua laughed. This night was not wasted. Of course, before long, Qing Ming and the other disciples of Master and I Qin came one after another. They led the guests out and arranged for them to rest in a quiet room that was similar to a cave. Xiao Hua naturally didn't stay with Fairy Hongxia. After sending off his disciple, Xiao Hua took out the newly refined jade talismans and placed them all around the cave. As Xiao Hua formed a hand seal, the simple capital sky star array was set up with a faint flicker of light. This jade talisman was indeed different from a spiritual talisman. Not only did it consume less spiritual power, but the tightness and concealment of the formation were also greatly increased. However, the capital star formation that was set up using a jade talisman absorbed too much spiritual energy from the heavens and the earth at the beginning. Fortunately, the mountain wind whistled in the valley, so these movements did not attract the attention of others. Very good. Xiao Hua released his Buddhist awareness and checked the capital star array. He was very satisfied. Although he had refined it in a hurry and only had a few dozen talismans, this array was comparable to the array activated by the 100 spiritual talismans that he had given to Juxia. When he thought of Juxia, her beautiful smile involuntarily appeared in his mind. -11. Chapter 2861. Damn it. I'm afraid I won't be able to get rid of this guy in the future. Xiao Hua shook his head unhappily. It looked like he was trying his best to throw this beauty out of his mind. Sigh, forget it. Maybe I've been hit by some secret technique of Joshia. Xiao Hua found an excuse for himself. When my magic power is strong enough, I'll naturally be able to break it. Then, Xiao Hua looked around, took out a futon from his dimension, and sat down cross-legged. He was about to use the sun-shrouding art to nourish his divine sense, but just as he was about to activate the sun-shrouding art, Xiao Hua stopped. He clapped his hand and took out 3 bone boxes from his dimension. This bone box was given to Xiao Mao by G-Man in order to show his loyalty back in Bai and Stronghold. Xiao Mao then gave it to Xiao Hua. According to G-Man, they hadn't given any treasures to Shibai village for a long time. These 3 bone boxes were the most precious of treasures. Of course, from G-Man's cautious attitude that day, Xiao Hua knew that the things inside were definitely not ordinary. If Xiaohua hadn't heard Master Qin Qin and Ziming talking about how the millions of cultivators in Ming Mountains were all low-level soul warriors, he might not have remembered these useless treasures of Ming Mountains. Didn't Xiaohua start cultivating the soul cultivation method that cultivators passed on to him in the language of Dao sect? Although Xiaohua later learned the true meaning of cultivating the nine heavens spirit origin from the jade slips of other soul cultivators, and his nascent divinity was now dancing with the little white dragon soul, and his soul cultivation technique was gradually reaching the level of samadhi. But this soul cultivation technique was still a low-level, unorthodox technique. Perhaps I can get some benefits from these three treasures? Xiaohua's heart was full of expectations. However, when Xiaohua opened the three bone boxes and saw the three treasures with his own eyes, he still smiled bitterly even though he was somewhat prepared. Inside the first bone box was a palm-sized bone staff. It was flat and somewhat slender. There was a pure white luster on it, and it was very smooth to the touch. It was somewhat similar to the jade stones seen in the Dao sect. However, this bone staff looked just like a bone staff. There wasn't a trace of strange fluctuation. Even when Xiaohua released his soul strands, he didn't see any reaction. This made Xiaohua smack his lips. He almost thought of using this bone staff to coax Junior Wu Qing. The thing inside the second bone box could be seen at a glance. It was a bone snake. It was unknown what kind of method was used to condense the tiny bone particles that were smaller than a grain of corn together to form a small snake that was as thick as a thumb and more than a foot long. This small snake was coiled inside the bone box. The small snake's head was slightly tilted up and its eyes were blank. Although it was also formed by two even smaller bone particles, there was no divine light. It was no different from a corpse. Xiaohua used his fingers to fiddle with the bone snake a few times. It was similarly ice-cold to the touch, and a faint chill came from this coldness. This chill penetrated Xiaohua's skin and even seeped into his soul. This thing is powerful. Xiaohua was happy. He knew that this bone snake had some background. However, just as this joy surged into his heart, he was suddenly startled. He thought of the day when Xiao Mao met Elder Wu of Bai and Stronghold. Elder Wu used a soul armament to create a statue of God Bai to test Xiao Mao's authenticity. That statue's ears, were there not two jade snakes hanging from it? Ah, this item is not fated to be with this young master. Xiaohua immediately put the bone snake into the bone box. He knew that this item was used by the descendant of God Bai, and he couldn't steal it. It was better to return it to Xiao Mao. The item in the third bone box was even more puzzling to Xiaohua. This was also a soul armament made from white bones. It was a ball about the size of a fist. Of course, rather than calling it a ball, it was more accurate to call it a skeleton. This skeleton wasn't a complete skeleton. Like the bone snake, it was made up of millions of tiny particles of bone. These particles of bone seemed to be condensed into a ball, but the skeleton was faintly discernible in and out of this ball of bone. This wasn't something that Xiaohua found strange. What Xiaohua found strange was that underneath the bone particles of the skeleton, there wasn't an empty space. Instead, there was another layer of bone particles. This layer of bone particles seemed to be the same as the outer layer of bone particles. Even below the second layer, there were still bone particles. When Xiaohua scanned it with his Buddhist sense, he realized that this soul armament had 18 layers. At the very core, the hole formed by the bone particles was only the size of a soybean. Good heavens! Soul cultivator items are really strange. Xiaohua picked up the bone ball from the bone box and tossed it up and down a few times. The bone ball was abnormally light, as if it didn't have any weight at all. His Buddhist sense only contained the bone particles, so there was no reaction. Even when Xiaohua released his soul strands, the bone ball didn't move like the previous soul armament toad. This made Xiaohua even more happy. That soul armament toad was quite useful when fighting against sword cultivators, but when it came into contact with a soul warrior, it immediately turned to ashes. It was clearly a low-level item that couldn't be any lower. But this item didn't have any reaction from the soul strands. Xiaohua knew that this was an extremely powerful item. What Xiaohua needed to do was to find out how to use this item. Should I ask Master Kachin? Xiaohua's hand casually tossed the bone ball as he thought to himself. The bone particles of the bone ball gradually shook up and down in the air. A fist-sized skeleton gradually appeared. In the dark night, Xiaohua's appearance became even more terrifying. Let's talk about it after I repair the soul-falling lamp. Xiaohua made up his mind. Since this item belongs to this young master, then it belongs to this young master. Xiaomao didn't say anything, so what can the others say? Could it be that Master Kuqin wants to take this treasure away? Oh, thinking of this, Xiaohua's face showed a puzzled expression. This Master Kuqin is also strange. Why did she suddenly call me Immortal Master? If it weren't for the fact that he called me Immortal Master and made my heart beat wildly, how could I have casually mentioned Daoist Zhao's name? Later on, Master Kuqin's behavior was also somewhat strange. The words she said were very puzzling. She even asked me to observe her repairing the soul-falling lamp. This was truly an inconceivable matter. But in the end, she actually sang and left. It was quite disrespectful. Forget it. Forget it. She is a master craftsman of Ming Mountain. Naturally, she has an extraordinary bearing. Why should I be so serious with her? In the future, I still have to ask her about how soul cultivators craft tools. I also have to ask her about the use of this bone ball. Smiling is the right way to go. In the end, Xiaohua stopped thinking. His eyes swept around, and his hands trembled. Damn it, this is really scary. How did it turn into a big skeleton? That's right, the bone ball in Xiaohua's hand had already turned into a skeleton bigger than a fist. Those empty eyes were looking at Xiaohua, and those white teeth were between Xiaohua's fingers. Let this young master take a look again. Xiaohua opened his transcendence vision. Sure enough, he could see a skeleton with his transcendence vision. What about this? Xiaohua took out the bone snake and the bone staff. In his transcendence vision, the bone snake naturally couldn't see anything, but the bone staff had a square shape, and there were traces of green light in it. Oh, green seal script? Xiaohua looked at the familiar green light, and his heart shook. He retrieved the bone snake and the bone ball, and threw the bone staff into the air. Hundreds of soul threads stretched out, wrapped around the bone staff, and dragged it toward the center of his eyebrows. This drag didn't matter, but Xiaohua immediately felt something different. This bone staff seemed to be extremely heavy, and his soul threads couldn't drag it at all. There's hope. Xiaohua wasn't surprised, but happy. He immediately released more soul threads. However, in the soul threads, the bone staff only moved a little. It was like a mountain, majestic and unmoving. This is troublesome. Xiaohua's right hand's index finger and middle finger flicked up and down on his chin. He stared at the bone staff and thought for a moment. Then, he stretched out his hand, placed the bone staff between his brows, and pulled the soul threads inside. After using a Herculean effort, Xiaohua's forehead only felt the coldness of the bone staff. But the bone staff couldn't feel his burning heart and simply ignored him. Damn it, this young master is going to waste time with you. Xiaohua was a little angry. This young master has encountered so many magic tools, magic treasures, and even spirit tools. Which one of them wasn't obedient to this young master? This young master doesn't believe that he can't subdue you. As he spoke, Xiaohua's mind spun rapidly. He really didn't have many soul techniques. Other than the cultivation method of the 9 heavens of spirit origin, these soul threads, and those green seal scripts, he didn't have any other soul techniques. Right, this young master also has a primordial spirit that cultivates soul techniques. Xiaohua slapped his forehead, and his mind entered the mysterious dark clouds. He saw that in the Qing Shun heaven, the human figure that seemed to be formed from a water bubble was swaying. Countless soul strands were dancing all the time, and mysterious waves of light were overflowing in the entire Qing Shun heaven. Beside the human figure, little white dragon's soul seemed to be a little bigger, but it still leaned against the human primordial spirit. Its body was also dancing with strange waves of light. These waves of light were different from the waves of light of Xiaohua's primordial spirit. However, occasionally, when the waves of light collided with each other, it would affect each other's own waves of light. Thus, the waves of light emitted would also have extremely subtle changes. Not bad. Xiaohua slightly sized up this height. It was already much faster than when he was in the Ring of Spirit Origin. Could it be that this 9 heavens of spirit origin is easier to cultivate to the end? However, this was only Xiao Hua's guess. There were no records in the cultivation method. When Xiao Hua called out his primordial spirit, he couldn't help but be a little dazed. At this time, his primordial spirit appeared in the cave. Layers of green brilliance appeared around the primordial spirit, and the entire primordial spirit was wrapped up. And this green brilliance was precisely the appearance of a human figure. The entire primordial spirit was lively and lively, just like a small person. -11. Chapter 2862. My goodness, isn't this the same as a nascent soul? Xiao Hua froze for a moment, then thought, if other primordial spirits are like this, then this young master will have nearly 10 nascent souls? Ha ha ha, wait until this young master's divine ability reaches the great success stage. If anyone dares to compete with this young master will swarm them and beat them to death. Xiao Hua laughed loudly, urging his primordial spirit to deal with the disobedient bone staff. The green primordial spirit's entire body shook, and countless soul strands extended from his body, completely covering the bone staff. Then, before Xiao Hua could think of anything else, a faint green light was emitted from the primordial spirit and transmitted to the bone staff according to the rhythm Xiao Hua had seen in the clear spirit heaven. Following the flickering of this light, the bone staff began to tremble strangely. When the bone staff's trembling was the same rhythm as the green light, the green primordial spirit reached out and placed his hand on the bone staff that was taller than him. The entire bone staff rapidly shrank, turning into a small cube, and fell into the green primordial spirit's hand. Then, the soul strands around the green primordial spirit pulled on Xiao Hua's Dharma eye imprint, and with a whoosh, entered Xiao Hua's mind, following the soul strands, and disappeared into the mysterious dark clouds. Xiao Hua was dumbfounded, truly dumbfounded. Yes, the green primordial spirit's subsequent actions weren't driven by him at all. It was only after the primordial spirit had done that he had some awareness and understood. Even the green primordial spirit's final return to the mysterious dark clouds wasn't his command at all. This is bad. This is bad. Seeing such a situation, how could Xiao Hua not know that things were already showing signs of going out of his control? There is life and death in the lightning tribulation. This primordial spirit, could it be that it has its own life? Xiao Hua temporarily couldn't think about the bone staff's function, and his back was sweating a little. Just now, he was still thinking about having 10 primordial spirits to fight with him, but now that he really saw such signs, he was afraid instead. 10 primordial spirits with their own independent thoughts. That's 10 Xiao Huas. Who should he listen to? Who was the real Xiao Hua? Maybe one day, the 10 Xiao Huas would fight by themselves first. Damn it, little white dragon, you've caused this young master to be miserable. Thinking of the future consequences, especially when he thought of the primordial spirit splitting technique from Master Ming Ming and Li Xiubai, had already begun to come true, Xiao Hua couldn't help but howl. Hurry up and wake me up. Xiao Hua thought as he urged his primordial spirit to rush into the mysterious dark clouds, wanting to find little white dragon's soul. However, just as his consciousness entered the ring of heavens, he saw that in the center of the ring of heavens, there was an emerald green ball of light emitting a faint brilliance. That brilliance was formed from tiny green seal characters, and it was like an extremely pure emerald that illuminated the entire ring of heavens. Xiao Hua couldn't care less about the strange bone staff. Xiao Hua's mind was about to rush into clear spirit sky. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua's mind had only just brushed past the green brilliance when the light exploded with a loud bang. The sound was like a thunderclap, and even more so like a landslide, shaking the entire clear spirit sky. What emerged from the light were dozens of huge green seal characters. These green seal characters were so vast in the clear spirit sky that they practically covered the entire clear spirit sky. Moreover, the green seal characters rotated from time to time, twisting from time to time, disintegrating from time to time, and gathering from time to time. Waves of desolate aura. Waves of indescribable Mystery 9 were born from these green seal characters. Motherfucker, at this point, Xiaohua naturally couldn't go to the pure spirit heaven anymore. He hurriedly urged his soul strands and prepared to touch these green seal characters like before. At this moment, at the place where the green seal characters exploded, where there was still a ball of green light, Xiaohua's green primordial spirit appeared strangely. As soon as this primordial spirit appeared, the soul strands around its body waved and pointed at the green seal characters dancing in the sky. Just like before, every time the soul strands touched a green seal character, the green seal character would emit a green light and slowly shrink. Along with the soul strands, it entered. Yes, it entered the body of the green primordial spirit. However, as the green seal characters entered the green primordial spirit, Xiaohua's mind also had a strange feeling. Moreover, the green seal character's information also appeared in his mind. At this time, the ring of aura sky was truly like a changing heaven and earth. The green seal character's flickering was like a heavenly phenomenon that could move mountains and overturn seas. The green seal character's dancing was like the transformation of the sea into mulberry fields. It was as if all the changes in the world were appearing in the ring of aura sky, and the center of all these changes was the green primordial spirit. Looking at the green primordial spirit dancing in the ring of aura sky, Xiaohua looked pensive. Why didn't the bone staff change when this primordial spirit sent it into the ring of aura sky? Instead, this bone staff can only change when the mind enters it? Why did this primordial spirit sense the green seal characters in the mind when it received them? Why did this primordial spirit not come out from clear spirit sky until the mind entered the ring of aura sky? As Xiaohua pondered, he gradually came to a conclusion. All kinds of signs indicated that the master of this mysterious dark cloud was still his mind. This green primordial spirit still couldn't control the entire mysterious dark cloud. Perhaps the other primordial spirits are also like this. Xiaohua's heart settled. No matter what, there has to be a distinction between the primary and the secondary. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a complete mess? As Xiaohua pondered, the green light in the ring of aura sky gradually disappeared. The green seal characters that filled the sky also gradually disappeared. In the end, they turned into 50 that revolved around the green primordial spirit. However, these green seal characters didn't seep into the primordial spirit. Xiaohua's mind was calm. He urged the 50 soul strands in the ring of aura sky to slowly touch the 50 green seal characters. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The green seal characters suddenly exploded again and swarmed into the green primordial spirit's body. In an instant, an enormous amount of information rushed into Xiaohua's mind. The Shaman Codex. This information entered Xiaohua's mind. Xiaohua was suddenly shocked. This is, however, when Xiaohua tried to find out more about the Sorcerer Codex, he realized that he only knew that it was a Sorcerer Codex. Apart from the green seal script recorded in the Sorcerer Codex, he was still clueless about everything else. This information was related to the 50 green seal characters. Moreover, the content of this information was somewhat different from the green seal characters that Xiaohua had previously obtained. Or rather, it was completely incompatible with Xiaohua's current understanding. If Xiaohua wanted to obtain something from this information, he was afraid that he would have to spend some effort to comprehend it. Damn it, what is this? If Xiaohua's mind could smile bitterly, he would definitely force out a smile. He had obviously obtained a treasure, but the content was something that he couldn't understand. Wasn't this the legendary entering a treasure mountain and returning empty-handed? What else can I do? This wasn't the first time Xiaohua had encountered this kind of situation. After all, his cultivation was still too shallow. Even though he had the strength of a nascent soul realm cultivator, in front of the mysteries of heaven and earth, he was inferior to an insignificant ant. The primordial spirit disappeared. That Shaman Codex also disappeared. When Xiaohua regained his senses, the Shaman Codex that had caused the astronomical changes in the ring of aura sky had already disappeared. I'm afraid that the primordial spirit was sent into the clear spirit heaven again. Xiaohua somewhat understood. This Shaman Codex could only be opened in the soul. Moreover, it could only be opened layer by layer. Without his mind, the primordial spirit clone was powerless. Sure enough, when Xiao Hua's mind rushed into the clear spirit heaven, the Shaman Codex once again exploded. Another 50 green seal characters appeared from the Shaman Codex. Moreover, when the Shaman Codex revealed the astronomical changes, the entire clear spirit heaven was directly expanded by 2 times. Unfortunately, this kind of opportunity seemed to only belong to Xiao Hua. Little White Dragon's soul seemed to have not heard this at all and was not affected in the slightest. Moreover, when the 50 green seal characters entered the body of the primordial spirit, a layer of green clothing appeared outside the primordial spirit. The style was actually somewhat similar to the clothing worn by millions of Ming Mountain soul warriors. Moreover, the 100 green seal characters even turned into dots of fluorescent light outside the primordial spirit's body. Following the fluctuations of the primordial spirit's green light, the faint brilliance was like twinkling starlight. This Shaman Codex gave birth to 50 green seal characters in both the Sky Ring and Sky Clear Spirit Heaven. Among them, I already knew some of the green seal characters, but I don't know most of them. In other words, when the cultivation of the 9 heavens of spirit origin is completed, this Shaman Codex can give birth to 450 green seal characters. Perhaps the Soul Cultivator's green seal characters are only 450. My goodness, these 450 green seal characters can be separated. Moreover, 2, 3, 4, and so on can be combined into new green seal characters. In other words, all Soul Cultivator's soul techniques can be produced from these 450 green seal characters. What a soul warrior needs to do is to find the method to combine different green seal characters into a soul warrior. Xiao Hua seemed to have understood. This kind of strange cultivation method is really unimaginable for us Dao sect cultivators. It seems like this Shaman Codex is really the most precious treasure of Ming Mountain. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua felt a little embarrassed. If I got it from someone else, I would naturally be secretly happy. But this is Xiao Mao's. He didn't know the importance of this Shaman Codex and gave it to me, but I can't pretend that I don't know. I'll ask Grandmaster Pu Qin about it later. If it doesn't work, I'll just return it to Xiao Mao. After getting the Shaman Codex, Xiao Hua naturally had the thought of dragging the bone ball into the mysterious dark cloud. But this thought only flashed through his mind for a moment. After all, the soul was very important. Just now, Xiao Hua was also a little impulsive, so he ruthlessly threw the Shaman Codex into the mysterious dark cloud. Fortunately, this was just the Shaman Codex, and only the green seal characters were recorded in it. Also, the usage of these green seal characters was not a real soul tool. However, these green seal characters were able to cause a great disturbance in both the Sky Ring and Sky Clear Spirit Heaven. If this bone ball was really a powerful soul tool, wouldn't it destroy his 9 heavens of spirit origin? If that happened, perhaps Xiao Hua wouldn't even have the chance to cry. -11. Chapter 28:63. Xiao Hua's back broke out in a cold sweat at the thought of this. His arrogant guts shrunk in an instant. He finally understood why those cultivators with high cultivation were so cowardly. Hanju, for example, knew that there were many things he needed in the Buddhist ruins. But even after cultivating for so long, he still didn't dare to go there. That was because he knew that the Buddhist ruins were filled with danger. Without absolute confidence, he absolutely couldn't set foot in there. If it was him, he would have already barged in and turned into a skeleton by now. He didn't even know which soul weapon he'd become. Immediately after, Xiao Hua stopped being distracted and sat cross-legged on the praying mat. As he circulated the sun shrouding technique, he concentrated on comprehending the 100 or so green seal text. Strands of obscure comprehension were born from the green seal text from time to time, and a feeling of scratching his ears and cheeks involuntarily arose in his heart. Xiao Hua was meditating. The 2 Dao sect cultivators on his left were also meditating. Li Zongbao held the slaughtering immortal whip in his hand. The slaughtering immortal whip in his hand flashed with a faint golden light. This golden light was like a bamboo shoot after the rain, slowly rising. Every time it grew taller, the golden light would grow a little brighter. Li Zongbao's face would also darken a few times. But even though the golden light of the slaughtering immortal whip was faint, the traces of blood within it could be seen clearly. It was the blood that changed according to Li Zhongbao's expression. Sometimes it was dense, sometimes it was sparse, and sometimes it was dense. It looked a little strange. As for Fairy Hongxia, the phoenix token flew to her forehead and resonated with the phoenix mark between her eyebrows. Rings of 5-colored brilliance were produced from the phoenix token and landed on the mark. The mark gradually danced and slowly penetrated Fairy Hongxia's body. After her entire body was bathed in the 5-colored brilliance, the 5-colored brilliance went straight into the phoenix mark and into the phoenix token. The brilliance of the phoenix token shone even brighter, and the phoenix mark became even clearer. Even Fairy Hongxia's jade-like skin became even more lustrous. The 3 Dao sect cultivators were bitterly cultivating, but the 2 soul cultivators were not. Ziming was lazily sitting on a bone bed with the soulfall lamp placed in front of her. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on the pitch-black soulfall lamp, as if her gaze was being sucked in by it. Ziming's beautiful eyebrows were tightly knitted together, like ice that hadn't melted in tens of thousands of years. Ziming wasn't happy about the fact that the soulfall lamp was about to be repaired. Unlike Ziming, Master Qin Qin was also sitting under a huge, withered tree. The bright moonlight shone through the dark clouds and into the valley. It also shone through the branches of the tree and fell on Master Qin Qin's face. Master Qin Qin's expression was very strange. It was as if she had lost her soul, but also as if she was both happy and worried. She was even a little worried. After the time it took to eat a meal, the moonlight left Master Qin Qin's face. Master Qin Qin raised her head slightly, and her pair of dazed eyes gradually regained their luster and even clarity. Sigh. She let out a long sigh. Perhaps the moon rises and sets, day goes and night comes, and the tides rise and fall like this. Then, Master Qin Qin seemed to inadvertently look at a place in the valley. She paused for a moment, then stood up and left the huge tree. The place Master Qin Qin was looking at was pitch black. Other than the night wind, there was no other movement. For a cultivator, 3 days was like the passing of a white horse. Before Xiaohua could scratch his head, he sensed that someone was calling him from outside the cave. Sigh. When will this young master be able to go into seclusion for a few years in peace? Xiaohua had no choice but to come out of his meditation. Although the green seal text was still being comprehended by his primordial spirit, that wonderful feeling was gone. Thinking about the process of something that was incomparably pleasant, but only let you participate in the result, no matter who it was, their heart would be filled with resentment. Xiaohua withdrew the capital star array and walked out of the cave. Qing Ming was standing respectfully at the entrance of the cave. He was not as cold as he was when Xiaohua saw him that day. Young Master Xiao. Qing Ming followed Ziming's greeting and said, Master has already gone to the soul refining cave. Young Master, please follow. Then, he looked up at the time. In about an hour, Master will start crafting soul tools. Oh? Xiaohua tilted his head and smiled. Master crafting soul tools. Needs to pick an auspicious day? That's not the case. Qing Ming smiled apologetically. At noon, soul warriors are full of vitality and hundreds of ghosts will avoid them. It is the best time for us soul warriors to craft soul tools. Thank you for your advice. Xiaohua was somewhat enlightened. His feet didn't stop to rest as he followed Qing Ming along the valley. After walking for a while, Qing Ming smiled and said, Young Master Xiao should know how to fly, right? Let's fly over. Don't let Master wait anxiously. Oh? Soul cultivators can also fly? Xiaohua was slightly taken aback. That's right. Ever since Xiaohua saw a soul cultivator riding a soul beast and fighting against a swordsman outside of Million Meng Mountains, he had seen many soul cultivators inside Million Meng Mountains. However, even G-Man, the candidate of Hutu's stronghold, Ziming, had never flown before. He had relied on his soul beast to fly. If Taoist cultivators can fly, we soul warriors of Meng Mountains can naturally fly too. Qing Ming smiled and took out a soul tool. He chanted an incantation. The soul tool flashed with a green light and wrapped around Qing Ming. His body immediately flew forward like a feather. His body was as agile as the flying technique of ordinary cultivators. Xiaohua's face was a little hot. He also circulated his magic power and followed behind Qingming. A faint green light flashed under Qingming's feet. It was more imposing than Xiaohua's light. "I'm sorry," Xiaohua said embarrassedly. "Since I came to Million Ming Mountains, I've seen many soul cultivators, but I've never seen them fly. They all ride soul beasts, so, hee, not flying doesn't mean you can't fly." Qingming smiled and said, "My Ming Mountain soul technique is a little different from your Taoist sect's magic. Your Taoist sect's cultivation technique. As long as you cultivate to a certain stage, you will naturally use a magic. But for my Ming Mountain soul cultivators, cultivation technique is cultivation technique. Soul technique is soul technique. They have nothing to do with each other." "Oh, I understand now." Xiaohua immediately understood. No wonder he didn't know any soul technique, even though he practiced the 9 heavens of spirit origin to the stage of pure spirit heaven. "But it seems the cultivation techniques I cultivate are also like this, right?" Actually, what Grandmaster said is not completely correct." Xiaohua replied with a smile. "Some cultivation techniques come with magic, but many cultivation techniques don't have the corresponding magic." "Oh, I understand." Qingming didn't intend to ask further and nodded slightly. Not long after, under Qingming's lead, Xiaohua came to a hillside where the sun was rising. In front of the hillside, Grandmaster Qin and Ziming were already waiting. There were also a few other disciples of Grandmaster Qin. Li Zongbao and Fairy Hongxia were not beside them. Taoist Xiao. At this moment, Grandmaster Qin had already regained her calmness. When she saw Xiaohua flying over, she raised her head and called out, "Young Master Xiao." Ziming also had a smile on his face. It was a far cry from the miserable look he had a few days ago. "I'm late. Please forgive me." Xiaohua cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Since you're here, you're not late." Grandmaster Qin said with a smile, "This old one has refined swords with a few blacksmiths from Sword Domain. This is the first time I'm refining a soul tool with a Taoist sect alchemist. If there's any mistake, please advise me." I don't dare." Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand. "Grandmaster is a grandmaster. This little one is just observing, not saying a single word." "No, Taoist Xiao is wrong." Master Qin shook her head. "The crafting of the soul tool this time is a little different. If there are any mistakes, Taoist Xiao must take action. Moreover, during the refining process, this old man will also have some questions to discuss with Taoist Master Xiao." "Oh." Xiaohua somewhat understood why Master and I Qin wanted him to participate in the restoration of the lost soul lamp. "I'll leave this matter to young Master Xiao." Ziming hurriedly said, "If you need my help, I'll definitely do my best." Xiaohua hurriedly agreed. Then, he asked, "Did Grandmaster not inform my 2 Dao friends?" "Haha, other than weapon refinement masters, no one else is allowed to enter this soul refining cave. It's useless for them to come," Master Qin said with a smile. "Rather than that, it's better to let them cultivate in the cave." At this point, Master Qin hesitated for a moment. She waved her hand to have Qingming and the other disciples leave. After thinking for a moment, she said, "Also, that Li Zongbao's cultivation is a little off. His soul and bloodline are a little strange. I'm afraid the magic treasure he's using is causing a backlash. The backlash from the magic treasure is already beyond what he can control. If we don't correct it soon, it'll cause a disaster. Does Grandmaster have a better plan?" Xiaohua was shocked. Then, he asked Master Qin with great admiration, "This old man has a few ideas. This is also one of the reasons why this old man invited Taoist Xiao to refine the soul tool." Master Qin smiled. "However, the root of his problem is his magic treasure. Although this old man's idea can treat the symptoms, it can't treat the root of the problem. It's best to start with young Master Li's magic treasure." Hearing this, Xiaohua was convinced by Master Qin's magnanimity. Not wanting to hide anything, he smiled. "I won't hide it from Grandmaster Qin. The spirit treasure Senior Li is talking about was made by this old man. However, because the spirit treasure is new, it hasn't been cultivated yet. Moreover, he used the spirit treasure again and again to fight with swordsmen and soul warriors. That's why his soul was damaged. This was also because he had no choice. Taoist Xiao? Master Qin's mouth opened wide in astonishment. Spirit? Spirit treasure? Ziming was also dumbfounded. Young Master Xiao can actually refine spirit treasures? Haha, I'm sorry. Xiao Hua said with a smile. I just happened to come across it by chance and was lucky enough to successfully refine it. Oh, actually, it can't be considered a successful refinement. It's more like a successful repair. -11. Chapter 2864. Following that, Xiao Hua roughly explained the reason for the slaughter immortal whip, although Xiao Hua downplayed it and emphasized the restoration. But even so, Master Qin's expression became much more respectful. Nonsense. An alchemist who could refine the rejuvenation pill, an alchemist who could refine spirit tools, both identities were worthy of the respect of ordinary people, not to mention that these two identities fell on the same person. In fact, Master Qin almost had to address Xiao Hua as senior. This is really Huda Great God's arrangement. Master Qin sighed. Her eyes seemed to have a kind of determination. At this crucial moment, she sent Taoist Xiao to this old one, and this old one also asked Taoist Xiao to restore the fallen soul lamp under Huda Great God's arrangement. If this fallen soul lamp cannot be restored, this old one will not have the face to see Huda Great God again. Young Master Xiao, you. Ziming said a few words, did not know what to say, finally pursed her lips and said, Can you give this concubine a few more surprises? Of course, let's wait and see. Xiao Hua blinked his eyes and said very proudly, He. Ziming pursed her lips and said, This concubine only now knows why Zai is so respected by young Master Xiao. Even this concubine feels familiar with young Master Xiao at first sight. As long as it is not at first sight. Xiao Hua said very casually, but just as he said those two words, he felt that it was inappropriate, not to mention Master Qin. Just based on Ziming's identity as Zai's twin sister, he could not say those words out loud. But obviously, Ziming had heard it, although her face did not turn red, but the corner of her mouth revealed a smile without a doubt. Master, when will we enter the soul-refining cave? Xiao Hua hurriedly changed the topic. In a moment. Master Qin raised her head and looked at the scorching sun that was about to reach the top of their heads, and said with some expectation, This matter will trouble Master. Ziming clapped her hands, took out the fallen soul lamp from the brocade bag, and handed it to Master Qin. This old one had 40% confidence before. Now with Taoist Zhao's help, this old one feels that all of a sudden, this old one feels that it is 90%. Master Hua Qin extended her hand to take it, and held onto the middle of the fallen soul lamp, and said, A blacksmith who can repair spirit weapons, repairing spirit treasures shouldn't be a problem. Don't, Grandmaster. Xiao Hua anxiously waved his hands. Xiao Kuku has never seen a spirit cultivator refine equipment before, and doesn't even know what a spirit treasure is. How can you repair a spirit treasure? I'm just observing. There's a saying in the Tao sect, all arts return to origin. Master Qin said with a smile. Actually, isn't artifact refinement also called all artifacts return to origin? It didn't matter if it was a spirit item, a sword item, or a soul item. In the end, they all had the same power and had the same use. They didn't have to be different. It's just that the refining process is different and the materials used are different. Good, Xiao Hua agreed. It's just as the master said. Just now, when I saw Master Qingming's flying technique, I felt that it was true. It doesn't matter if a Taoist uses magic power to fly, a swordsman uses a flying sword to fly, or a soul warrior uses soul force to fly. As long as one can fly, the result will be the same. With that said, Xiao Hua smiled and asked Ziming, can you and Zi fly? Why do you always use soul beasts? Ziming smiled and muttered something. Then, a faint green light flashed. White light and wisps of white mist appeared from Ziming's feet. Ziming's body flew gracefully from the mountain slope into the air. After circling in the air for a while, he landed back down. It's just as young Master Xiao said. Flying as a soul cultivator consumes soul power. Although this soul power can last for a long time, it's not easy to replenish. It can't be compared to the magic power of a cultivator, Ziming explained with a smile. Moreover, every soul cultivator has a soul beast. Since soul beasts can fly, why do we have to fly ourselves? Indeed, Xiaohua understood. It's just like the people of the secular world. They can walk with their legs, they can also walk with their carriages. Since they have carriages, why do they have to walk with their own legs? Right? Ziming smiled. He pointed his finger at the sky and said, "Young Master Xiao, you shouldn't ask any more questions. Please enter the cave." Good, good, good. Xiaohua laughed. He cupped his hands and said, "Master and I Qin, please lead the way." Please, Master and I Qin didn't stand on ceremony. She took the lead and walked towards a small cave on the mountain slope. "Thank you for your trouble." Ziming cupped her hands towards Xiaohua. It was as if she wanted to entrust the soul lamp to Xiaohua and not Master and I Qin. Xiaohua slightly nodded. With a smile on his face, he also turned around and followed Master and I Qin. Only Ziming was left standing under the sun. She let the blazing heat shine on her face. It was as if only this light could dispel the worries in her heart. Her eyes were fixed on Xiaohua's back. She was waiting for Xiaohua's back to disappear into the cave. Xiaohua was actually calm. This matter of repairing the soul lamp was not his business. He was just a passerby. Seeing Master and I Qin walk to the entrance of the cave, she slightly turned her head. Seeing that Xiaohua had already followed, she patted her hand. She also took out a brocade bag. From inside, she took out a dark green bamboo joint. She chanted an indescribable syllable. Along with this syllable, a strange fluctuation appeared around Master and I Qin. Then, Master and I Qin pointed her finger at the top of the bamboo joint. Gulyulu, a bubbling sound came from the bamboo joint. The bamboo joint began to melt. An emerald green finger bone appeared in the air. Master Inai Qin used her hand to support the finger bone and slowly extended it forward. When it touched the entrance of the cave, rumbling sound came from the entrance. Xiaohua only saw a flash in front of his eyes. A pitch-black stone door appeared in the originally empty cave entrance. Not only was the stone door pitch-black, but there were also some undulating veins. These veins were sometimes large and sometimes small, covering the entire stone door. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes. He could clearly see that these veins were made up of many talismans that looked like bones. Each talisman seemed to be in a trance, as if it could absorb a person's gaze. Xiaohua didn't dare to look anymore. He looked at Master and I Qin again. Master and I Qin's hand gesture didn't change. The finger bone was sent to the front of the stone door. There was a deep hole the size of a thumb where many symbols intersected. When the finger bone fell into the deep hole suddenly closed. Then, like a person's eyeball, it slightly rotated. Soon after, it opened. A ray of azure light shot out from the eye, covering Master and I Qin and Xiaohua. Beep, beep, beep. Master Kuqin was chanting some strange spells again. Green lights that looked like seal scripts fell down and rushed into the blue light. Swoosh, when the light touched the green light, it immediately shrank. Zalala, the pitch-black door suddenly cracked open. The two sides of the crack were like the teeth of a beast. "I've made a fool of myself." Master and I Qin turned around and said humbly, "This old man's soul-refining cave was passed down from the previous generation. There are some secrets inside. Compared to the Dao sect's magic, this soul formation technique is still a bit lacking." In Daoist Zhao's eyes, "Hee, I've made a fool of myself." Not at all, not at all. Xiaohua looked around but didn't use his Buddhist sense. He smiled and said, "This soul formation technique is very mysterious in my eyes. How can I say it's made a fool of myself? Or it could be said that each has their own strengths." Please, Master and I Qin walked into the cave. At this time, the finger bone also floated to his side. The inside of the cave was very dark. One couldn't see clearly with the naked eye. Master and I Qin grabbed the finger bone and flung it. The entire cave suddenly brightened and was covered by a gentle green light. See, Xiaohua followed behind Master and I Qin. Suddenly, he felt a green light pierce into his eyes. That green light was like a ghost baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. He couldn't help but shiver in his heart. Then, when he looked around and saw the situation of the soul-refining cave clearly, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This soul-refining cave was very big. It was as if the entire cave was hollowed out. However, the four walls of the cave weren't stone walls. Instead, they were dark green. Even the area under Xiao Hua's feet was dark green. He couldn't tell where was up and where was down. The place where Xiao Hua came in was already closed. It was also flat, and no traces could be seen. Moreover, this dark green was so deep. Wherever his gaze fell, he couldn't feel the boundary. It was as if it was infinitely big. Xiao Hua didn't dare to release his Buddhist sense. However, when his gaze swept past, that dark green revealed a strange aura. It was as if Xiao Hua's gaze could stir up waves in the dark green. The moment those waves rose, one after another malevolent ghost head, and one after another naked men and women would be revealed inside. So much so that, as Xiao Hua's gaze shifted, one after another shocking pictures would appear in front of Xiao Hua's eyes. Soul Refining Cave, Soul Refining Cave. It really lives up to its reputation. Xiao Hua slightly turned around and looked at the situation of the entire Soul Refining Cave. A strange look appeared in his eyes as he sighed. This soul formation can see directly into the heart. It's indeed not something my Dao Sect's formation can compare to. At this moment, Grandmaster Ku Qin had already turned around. His eyes were glowing as he looked at Xiao Hua with great interest. When Xiao Hua finished sighing, he asked in a low voice, "Daoist Xiao, you don't need to hide it from me. Have you practiced a soul cultivation technique before?" "Oh, why do you say that?" Xiao Hua smiled. He didn't admit it and asked back, "I won't hide it from Daoist." Grandmaster Kachin laughed. "This old one is a weapon refiner from Ming Mountain. It's precisely because I deal with soul tools that I'm very sensitive to soul cultivation techniques. There's no need to talk about Ming Mountain soul warriors. As long as it's a cultivator or a swordsman who has dabbled in soul cultivation, this old one will be able to find the flaw with a sweep of his soul sense. However, this old one clearly sensed traces of soul strands on Daoist Zhao's body. However, under my soul sense, I can't find any traces of Daoist Xiao cultivating soul sense." "Soul sense?" Xiao Hua asked curiously. "Is it something similar to the divine sense of my Dao Sect's cultivators?" "That's right." Grandmaster Kuchin nodded. "Swordsman and cultivator have divine sense. Devil cultivators have devil sense. Us soul warriors naturally have soul sense as well. However, soul sense is different from divine sense and devil sense. It's not obtained through cultivation techniques. Instead, it's tempered and tempered. -11. Chapter 2865. "Oh, so that's how it is." Xiao Hua nodded. "This humble one is indeed ignorant. This soul technique is related to soul strands. If you haven't practiced a soul cultivation technique, I'm afraid you can't use it," Master Kuchin said with a smile. "This old man has a record of this. I wonder if Reverend is interested?" Alas, Xiao Hua saw that Grandmaster Kuchin insisted on asking him whether or not he had practiced a soul cultivation technique. He could only sigh and say, "This little one has always been curious. Otherwise, I wouldn't have practiced both the Tao of refining and the Tao of alchemy. Until now, I am still only in the foundation establishment realm. This humble one learned about the 9 heavens of Lingyuan and Ming Mountain a few years ago. However, I heard from Master and Ziming that the cultivation technique transcribed by those cultivators was inferior. Thus, this humble one didn't dare to say much." "Oh, so that's how it is." Master Kuchin nodded. "I'm afraid the cultivation technique Reverend obtained has already deviated greatly. Perhaps." Xiao Hua didn't comment. He didn't like to talk about such laughable things. "Can you tell this old man about your soul cultivation technique?" However, Master Kuchin didn't let him go and asked, "This?" Xiao Hua hesitated slightly. He didn't understand what Master Kuchin meant. He didn't know if Master Kuchin asked because he needed to rely on his soul cultivation technique to repair the soul falling lamp. However, when he thought about his low-level soul cultivation technique, he didn't mind. He patted his hand and took out the jade slip from his space and handed it to Master Ku Qin. However, Xiao Hua didn't go into detail about the true cultivation of his soul cultivation technique. Master Ku Qin took the jade slip and glanced at it briefly before returning it to Xiao Hua. He said with a mocking smile, "The cultivators of your Dao sect are really good at making things up. According to the 3 souls and 6 spirits, my soul cultivation realm is divided into 4 stages: human, earth, heaven, and saint. Among them, Aura Ring and Clear Spirit Heaven are called human stage. Bright Ruah Heaven and Abundant Reality Heaven are called earth stage. Condensing Meridian Heaven and Understanding Heart Heaven are called heaven stage. Soul Forming Heaven, Yuanshu Heaven, and Silent Void Heaven are called saint stage." Furthermore, he even compared my soul cultivation level with your Dao sect's cultivation level. He said that the mortal stage was equivalent to the Dao sect's Qi refinement stage. The earth stage was equivalent to the Dao sect's foundation establishment stage and golden core stage. The heaven stage was equivalent to the nascent soul stage and spirit severing stage, and the sage stage was equivalent to the Dao sect's unification stage, tribulation stage, and Mahayana stage. All of this was purely false. It was nothing more than a division created by those cultivators based on their own understanding. How could the spirit of Ming Mountains, Yuan Jutian, cultivate like this? How can you get the true essence of soul cultivation with such a specious method? Isn't that the case? Xiao Hua was stunned and hurriedly asked, "Then, what should it be?" Unfortunately, Grandmaster Qin Qin did not answer Xiao Hua's question. Instead, she changed the topic and asked, "I wonder if Taoist Xiao would like to obtain the true cultivation method of 9 Heavens Spirit from Ming Mountain?" Oh, this time, it was Xiao Hua's turn to be surprised. Puzzled, he looked down at Grandmaster Ku Qin. At this moment, Grandmaster Ku Qin was standing in front of Xiao Hua like a child. Looking at this soul cultivator who resembled Gao Zhuang, Xiao Hua did not know what Grandmaster Ku Qin was thinking. Just now, Grandmaster Ku Qin had used the tempering of his soul consciousness as a lure. Now, Grandmaster Ku Qin denied the soul cultivation method in the jade slip and used the true cultivation method of 9 Heavens Spirit as a bait. This was not something a master craftsman of Ming Mountain should do. Grandmaster Ku Qin met Xiao Hua's surprised gaze without any fear. With a calm expression, she said, "Taoist Xiao, please don't be surprised. This old man just has a matter to ask Grandmaster for help. That's why I'm using it as a price to ask for Grandmaster's help." "What matter?" Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, "If it's simple, Grandmaster doesn't need to pay any price. This little one can do it for you." Let's not talk about it now." Grandmaster Kachin waved her hand and said, "Taoist Xiao, you can think about it again. It won't be too late to answer me after the soul-setting lamp is restored." All right, Xiao Hua was somewhat baffled. Grandmaster Ku Qin hadn't even said what the matter was, so how could he think about it? However, since Grandmaster Ku Qin didn't say anything, she probably wouldn't say anything even if Xiao Hua asked again. However, at this moment, Xiao Hua thought of another matter and asked, "Oh right, Li Zongbao, is the method to repair the soul-setting lamp included in it?" "That's not included in it." Grandmaster Ku Qin clapped her hands and took out the soul-setting lamp. She said with a smile, "When the soul-setting lamp is repaired, Taoist Xiao will be able to see it." "All right." Xiao Hua nodded. Grandmaster is so straightforward. This little one can agree even if I don't think about it. Grandmaster Ku Qin didn't say anything at this moment. "Oh right, Grandmaster, this little one has another question." Xiao Hua asked again, "May I ask?" "Taoist Xiao is too polite." Grandmaster Ku Qin said with a smile, "If Taoist Xiao has any questions, you can ask me at any time. This old man will tell you everything he knows." "Does Grandmaster know about the Shaman Codex?" Xiao Hua asked cautiously, carefully looking at Grandmaster Ku Qin's expression. "Of course I know." Grandmaster Ku Qin's expression was normal. There wasn't the slightest bit of shock, as if the Shaman Codex was an ordinary thing. Phew, Xiao Hua immediately let out a sigh of relief. However, this old man doesn't know which Shaman Codex Taoist Xiao is asking about. Grandmaster Ku Qin asked again, "How many Shaman Codices are there?" Xiao Hua didn't understand. The Shaman Codex of Ming Mountain is just a general name. It's a book that records the matters of Ming Mountain, cultivation methods, and spirit warriors. Almost every shaman village has a shaman codex. Grandmaster Kuchin answered. Bailu village has a shaman codex. Shi Bailu village also has a shaman codex. However, it's obvious that the two shaman codices can't be compared. The biggest function of the shaman codex is to pass it down. The shaman elder of Bailu village has a shaman codex, so he can be called a shaman elder. If the shaman codex of Bailu village disappeared, then Bailu village would cease to exist. If you want to destroy Bailu village, you just have to take away the shaman codex of Bailu village? Xiao Hua was stunned. Hee. What this old man means is disappearing from this world. Grandmaster Kachin said. As long as the people of this shaman village still have a trace of bloodline, this shaman codex will never disappear. Even if this shaman village declines and disappears, its shaman codex will still exist in Ming Mountain until the people of this shaman village completely disappear. Of course, if someone finds this lost shaman codex, they can also rebuild the shaman village. Oh, I see. Xiao Hua finally understood. So this shaman codex of his was really not a rare object. Reverend, do you have any other questions? Grandmaster Kuchin asked with a smile. Yes. Hearing this, Xiao Hua smiled and said, but when I look at the cultivation method of 9 heavens of spirit origin, I have no idea what it is. Ha ha ha, Grandmaster Kuchin laughed. The cultivation method of a spirit warrior is different from that of a cultivator. If Reverend doesn't have any doubts, then it would be strange. When Reverend obtains this old man's cultivation method of 9 heavens of spirit origin, you will naturally understand a lot. Oh, but let me tell you in advance, this old man's cultivation method of 9 heavens of spirit origin only has 6 heavens of spirit soul, but it doesn't have 3 heavens of spirit. How many green seal characters are there in total? Xiao Hua ignored Grandmaster Ku Qin's explanation and suddenly asked. 365. Grandmaster Kuchin answered very casually, but then his body shook violently. He raised his head to look at the smiling Xiao Hua and asked with an incredulous tone, Xiao, Reverend Xiao, could it be that you have already learned the green seal characters? I have. Xiao Hua's answer was powerful and resonant, but I was baffled by it and didn't know what it was. Although he said that, he was secretly thinking, that's not right. The Shaman Codex should have counted 450. Why is it that Grandmaster Kuchin only has 365? Oh, I see. Grandmaster Kuchin looked at Xiao Hua's unusually young face and nodded. My Ming Mountain's green seal characters inherited from the ancient times, but now they have been completely annihilated in the dust of time. Of course, the green seal characters also exist outside of Ming Mountain, so it is normal for Reverend to have seen them. Actually, I still want to ask. Xiao Hua really wanted to know the origin of the green seal characters, so he asked again, what is the secret of the green seal characters? It seems to have the ability to understand the world. Could it be that every green seal character has its own origin? Facing Xiao Hua's question, Grandmaster Ku Qin's reaction was very strange, as if he didn't come to the soul-refining cave to repair the soul-losing lamp, but specifically to teach Xiao Hua. He patiently answered, this old man doesn't know the origin of the green seal characters. This secret of Ming Mountain is probably directly related to the 12 great gods, and only the ancient Yi clan in the depths of Ming Mountain would know about it, right? However, according to this old man's knowledge, if you can completely master the green seal characters, then you will have the ability to understand the world. The ancient Yi clan in Ming Mountain? Xiao Hua was stunned again. This world was really mysterious. He used to think that Ming Mountain was mysterious and unfathomable, but now that he came into contact with soul cultivators, he realized that this was not the only mystery of Ming Mountain. The mystery was still inside. This time, Grandmaster Kuchin did not answer the question about the ancient remnant races. Perhaps he did not know either. He continued, the crafting techniques of Ming Mountain are completely related to the green seal script. Hearing this, Xiao Hua suddenly realized that Grandmaster Kuchin was waiting for him here. However, a few days ago, when Xiao Hua heard that Grandmaster Kuchin could only refine 3 soul treasures in his lifetime, he already had some understanding. He didn't hide it and nodded. Grandmaster, when you said that refining is related to life essence, This little one understands a little. Back then, Xiaohua briefly explained the matter of misty clouds sects Yun Tengyu. Oh? So in Ming country, there are also Taoist disciples who inherit the green seal characters of Ming Mountain? This old man really didn't expect this. Grandmaster Ku Qin was really surprised. This method of using the green seal characters is somewhat similar to this old man's refining techniques, but it also consumes life essence. Alas, what a pity. If this technique could be used, the drought in Ming Mountain could be alleviated. But I'm afraid no one would be willing to exchange their lifespan for the green seal characters. Xiaohua shook his head slightly. This old man can, Grandmaster Ku Qin said indifferently, but this old man doesn't know how. All this old man knows is the green seal characters of refining. -11. Chapter 2866. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He understood the green seal text, but how could he teach it to this master craftsman who cherished Ming Mountain? It seems like he still doesn't know how to display the green seal text. Let's listen a bit more. Xiaohua thought to himself. If Taoist has already seen Sect Master Yun use the green seal text, then you should already know my refining technique. Master Ku Qin waved her hand, and the soul-falling lamp immediately flew into the air. Yes, I understand. As long as you sing the green seal text, the green seal text will produce the ability to refine tools, refining soul tools like my Tao sect's magic. Xiaohua nodded. Taoist is still wrong. Master Ku Qin said bluntly, singing the green seal text is something only the descendants of the 12 great gods can do with the power of the great gods' bloodline. Us spirit scholars need to use soul strands to make soul sounds, and use the power of the soul to chant the green seal text. As for Sect Master Yun, because he doesn't have any soul power, he can't make sounds. So he took the unorthodox path and used his body to make sounds. This kind of green seal text can't be used to its full potential, and it also consumes a lot of life essence. I can refine tools 3 times, but he can't even do it once. Oh? Xiaohua was extremely excited. This was a secret technique he had been searching for a long time. However, he still suppressed his joy and said with a smile, I want to see Master's divine technique. I'm ashamed, Master Ku Qin shook her head. I haven't reached the divine technique realm that Taoist mentioned. Using soul power to make sounds is also borrowing the power of my bloodline. The power of bloodline? Xiaohua's eyes turned slightly, and he said with a smile, What's the matter with the power of bloodline? Xiaohua used blood essence to refine spirit tools, and he also used blood essence to control magic treasures. Even the cultivation method of the demon realm included the cultivation of bloodline. He really wanted to know how Master Ku Qin explained it. Taoist is a cultivator of the Tao sect. I'm afraid you only know how to use the power of bloodline, but you don't know the origin of the power of bloodline. Master Ku Qin said with a smile, just like Taoist said Ziming. You only know that soul power can fly. Why do you need to know how it can fly? Indeed, Xiaohua nodded. He was talking about her, but there were many things that he didn't understand. In fact, the bloodline power is way too mysterious, and I haven't read any Magus books about it. I've only read a lot of books about it and added my own understanding of it. Master Ku Qin said. She pointed her finger, and a drop of blood fell into the air. Then, Master Ku Qin's body started to vibrate. The vibrations caused the air to vibrate and spread throughout the entire soul refining cave. The blue light around the soul refining cave also started to vibrate. It was as if Xiaohua and Master Ku Qin were standing on a sea with monstrous waves, surrounded by the sound of waves. As the sound became louder and louder, a voice that Xiaohua was familiar with spread out from the soul refining cave. Countless tiny green seal characters appeared in the surroundings and fell towards the blood drop in front of Master Ku Qin. I understand. At this moment, Xiaohua suddenly realized why Grandmaster Ku Qin wanted to refine weapons in this crafting cave, and what was going on with the azure surrounding his crafting cave. The green seal characters on the blood drop gathered into a big green seal character and fell into the blood drop. With a pong sound, the blood drop suddenly turned into a small human figure. Taoist, please take a look. If an ordinary person was injured, Who knows how much of this small blood drop would fall? Master Ku Qin's face was a bit pale. She pointed her finger and said, but under the stimulation of the green seal characters, this blood drop can produce a powerful bloodline power. Yes. Xiao Hua nodded. Actually, this is only the most basic power of the bloodline. Master Ku Qin was really resting. She explained, in my opinion, the greatest use of the bloodline power is inheritance. Inheritance? Xiao Hua stared blankly and didn't understand. Whether we are cultivators, soul warriors, or swordsmen, whether we are the descendants of the 12 gods, or the descendants of the sword ancestor and the Tao ancestor, we are all humans. This bloodline is something that has existed since we were born into this world. Within this bloodline is the inheritance of the information from the ancient people. With this bloodline, we are humans, not beasts, not grains of rice and millet. From this bloodline, humans can be divided into cultivators and soul warriors. From this bloodline, Ming can recite the witchcraft incantation of the Hutu great god, but ordinary soul warriors like us can't. From this bloodline, cultivators can refine their own magic treasures. From this bloodline, swordsmen can refine their own spirit swords, and even fuse with their bodies with the sword. Moreover, according to what I know, the demon world also has blood refining techniques. From this bloodline, demons can cultivate into demon lords. Even soul weapons, spirit weapons, and so on need the power of this bloodline. Ordinary blood sacrifices are the same. They all extract the power of the bloodline and accumulate it to reach a level that ordinary people can't reach. I also don't remember if it was passed down from ancient times or recorded somewhere, but if I, a soul warrior, cultivate the power of this bloodline to the extreme, I can become a god through the bloodline. Master Ku Qin said with almost longing, just by relying on the bloodline, I can see through life and death and live forever between heaven and earth. See, Xiao Hua didn't dare to believe. Is this possible? Actually, although the power of the bloodline is strong, it is not the most mysterious thing in the world. Master Ku Qin didn't answer him, but continued. The soul is the most mysterious thing in the world. If the bloodline is the inheritance of the human race, then the soul is the inheritance of the individual, or in other words, the most fundamental difference between everyone. Xiao Hua heard Master Ku Qin change the topic and frowned slightly, not understanding why. But he heard Master Ku Qin say again, this world is boundless. From mortals to cultivators, then to the immortal world, and so on, human cultivation seems to have no end. But within the soul, doesn't the 9 heavens of spirit origin cover all cultivation? This old man bluntly said that the 9 heavens of spirit origin is connected to heaven and earth. As long as you completely understand the 9 heavens of spirit origin, you can definitely reach the supreme realm. Xiao Hua heard the last part and couldn't help but smile, asking, Master also cultivates the 9 heavens of spirit origin, right? I wonder what level of heaven you have cultivated to now. Taoist Master Xiao, you still don't understand what this old man means. Master Ku Qin said with a smile, how can the current 9 heavens of spirit origin be considered a true comprehension? This old man is not talented, but he has already cultivated to the full reality realm. But this kind of cultivation is simply a passing observation. It is simply impossible to truly understand the meaning of the 9 heavens of spirit origin. Then, how can you understand it? Is there such a cultivation method? Xiao Hua asked curiously. How can there be such a cultivation method? Master Ku Qin said with a smile, just by a sentence recorded in the cultivation method, you want to control heaven and earth? You want to be free and unfettered in the 9 heavens? That is absolutely impossible. All the cultivation methods in this world, or rather, as long as there is a cultivation method, it is impossible to reach such a realm. Oh, what do you mean? Xiao Hua was even more shocked. Doesn't the cultivation of the Tao sect rely on cultivation methods? How can one cultivate without a cultivation method? Cultivation is only to obtain power, or use power to make up for one's realm. This is the purpose of your Tao sect. Master Ku Qin said patiently, my soul cultivation method is also the same. However, the good thing is that my soul cultivation method is a cultivation method, and my soul technique is a soul technique. You only need to comprehend the 9 heavens of spirit origin, and you will also have a profound soul power, tempering your soul to a solid state. But this kind of tempering will never reach the height of the 12 great gods. Moreover, Taoist Xiao, do you think there is a soul technique in this world that can let people cultivate to the level of a great god? This, Xiao Hua instantly thought of his own backtrack time and thought of the light escape method. All cultivation methods are in the same direction, and in the end, there is an end. Master Ku Qin pointed at the little blood man in the air. The blood man seemed to have gained intelligence and rushed into the soul falling lamp floating in the air. Wang Wang, the soul falling lamp immediately appeared to be a blood-red color, and an indescribable vibration came from the soul falling lamp, rushing to the surroundings of the soul refining cave. And with the help of the power of the bloodline and the power of the soul, one can make this cultivation method go in the right direction, allowing one's cultivation to have no end. Master Ku Qin finally finished speaking, and suddenly his body began to tremble rapidly. Waves of green light came out from his body, and waves of fluctuations were also emitted, echoing the vibration of the soul falling lamp, rushing to the 4 walls. Woo-woo-woo. Sounds like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves came out from the surroundings of the soul refining cave. The azure light set off violent fluctuations, and hundreds of thousands of tiny green seal characters rushed out from the azure light, fluttering around the entire soul refining cave. Xiao Hua looked at the sky full of green seal characters, and his eyebrows slightly wrinkled. Master Ku Qin's words seemed to be a bit extreme, putting the soul cultivation method above all sword cultivation and Taoist cultivation methods, and saying that the power of the bloodline and the mystery of the soul were the only powers in the world. But thinking about it carefully, Xiao Hua felt that Master Ku Qin's words were quite reasonable. After all, many inexplicable cultivation methods could be explained from these 2 aspects. In particular, Master Ku Qin said that all cultivation methods were in the same direction, and in the end, there would be an end. This really made Xiao Hua feel enlightened. Yes, if such a cultivation method could be casually obtained by anyone, wouldn't they immediately have a meteoric rise? Wouldn't they be able to cultivate to become a Buddha without any effort? Wouldn't they be able to immediately ascend to the immortal world? All cultivation methods were created by people, and they were all related to that person's realm. Could it be that the so-called great deity could write a cultivation method that would allow someone to cultivate to become a great deity in an instant? If that was the case, then wouldn't this great deity be too worthless? Were the heavens full of great deities? Of course, Master Ku Qin's words were enlightening, but Xiao Hua didn't completely believe it. Although the power of the bloodline and the mystery of the soul were very important, if there were only these 2 in this world, then where did the 3,000 great Taoists come from? How would Xiao Hua explain the karmic hand in his space? How would he explain the heavenly Tao starry sky? -11. Chapter 2867. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua was once again puzzled. Why is this soul cultivator weapon refining grandmaster wasting so much time talking to me? Does she want to accept me as her disciple? Does she want to teach me the soul cultivator's weapon refining techniques? Since when was my character so lovable? Of course, Xiao Hua was only thinking about it. He didn't believe that Grandmaster Ku Qin, who he had just met, would accept him as her disciple. Moreover, Xiao Hua himself wouldn't agree, right? Helpless, Xiao Hua looked at Grandmaster Ku Qin again. Wu, with a loud roar, Grandmaster Ku Qin's figure floated into the air. It seemed that the lecture just now had released all the suppressed emotions in her heart. However, her angry roar seemed insignificant in the soul-refining cave where the green seal characters were chanting. However, after this roar, huge tentacles appeared around Grandmaster Ku Qin. These were the soul strands that Grandmaster Ku Qin had refined for hundreds of years. The soul strands nimbly tapped on the green seal characters that filled the sky as if they were plucking the strings of a zither. Every time they tapped on a character, a strange sound would be emitted. After dozens and hundreds of green seal characters were tapped on, the green seal characters formed a green seal character that was 1 zhang long and emitted an even louder sound. This sound was ear-piercing and extremely strange. It seemed as if it had existed since the beginning of time, but also as if it had never existed. The source of the sound was the soul-falling lamp. As the sound faded, a thick layer of black fog appeared above the soul-falling lamp. As soon as the black fog appeared, it emitted a strange sound that was extremely similar to the sound that had disappeared before. A sharp, all-like piercing pain emerged from Xiao Hua's mind, directly approaching his soul. Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed and hurriedly urged his soul strands, blocking the area around him. Xiao Hua's soul strands were originally vibrating, but this sound affected the vibrations of the soul strands and forced them to change. Naturally, following the change in the vibration of the soul strands, the sound and the piercing pain did indeed gradually lessen. However, the vibration passed through the soul strands and into Xiao Hua's soul. The mysterious dark clouds once again emitted a rumbling sound as they underwent some slight changes. This mysterious vibration even penetrated into Xiao Hua's space. Xiao Hua's soul strand stretched out, and he immediately sensed Grandmaster Qin Qin's abnormality. If his soul strands were a gurgling stream, Grandmaster Qin Qin's soul strands would be a boundless ocean. However, Grandmaster Qin Qin didn't notice Xiao Hua's change. The tentacles formed by the soul strands kept poking at different green seal scripts. Then, more green seal scripts appeared. Different sounds shook the entire soul refining cave. As the green seal scripts entered the soul refining lamp, it gradually came alive. A black hound formed by countless ghosts appeared from the soul refining lamp. A dark and suffocating aura filled the entire soul refining cave. This black dog looked like an ordinary black dog. It had a body, 4 legs, and even a tail with a ghostly face. However, the most eye-catching thing about this black dog was that it had 3 heads, and each head had a pair of dark red eyes. The dark red light was extremely gloomy and bewitching, as if it could see through everything in the world. Hiss! A feeling of extreme danger rose from the bottom of Xiao Hua's heart. It was as if he had no power to resist this strange black dog. After waiting for a moment, Xiao Hua frowned again. Although this black dog appeared, and its dark and irresistible aura filled the air, the black dog only appeared and didn't move at all. Oh, I see. Xiao Hua dodged the dark red light of the 3-headed black dog and looked at it. He saw that in the middle of the black dog's chest, between its 2 front legs, there was a fist-sized gap missing. When Xiao Hua took a closer look, he found that the black dog's head, ears, and mouth were all chipped. They weren't complete. It should be because these places are missing that the soul-refining lamp can't be lit. Xiao Hua understood. But how do I fix it? While he was thinking, Master Qin Qin slapped her hand again and took out a dozen different bones from her back. These bones were of different sizes, and some even had strange shapes. These bones were also strange. As soon as they were taken out from the bag, they turned into balls of black gas under the sound of green seal script. Terrifying ghostly heads were born from these balls of black gas, but these ghostly heads were extremely unstable. They roared and writhed in the black gas, as if they were struggling with all their might. Meng Mountain soul artifacts are made from living souls. As long as there are enough living souls, they can connect to the 9 underworlds. Grandmaster Qin Qin finally spoke again, but her voice was old and powerless. When Xiao Hua looked at the Grandmaster again, there was an unconcealable sense of age on the Grandmaster's face. If you want to repair a soul armament, you naturally have to use living souls. The Taoist school uses a cauldron and a spirit fire when crafting, but we soul cultivators use the world as the cauldron, life essence as the fire, and souls as the supplement. As she spoke, Master Qin Qin's body began to tremble again. The soul strands that looked like tentacles began to dance in the soul refining cave. Another green light was emitted from the soul strands and then rushed towards the walls of the cave. Naturally, as the green seal script came out, Master Qin Qin's body began to age rapidly. Countless wrinkles appeared on her face. After the green seal script came out, it quickly landed on the black gas. The black gas suddenly stopped moving and became still. It didn't take long for it to turn into thin strands of black gas. Then, under the entanglement of Master Qin Qin's soul strands, the black gas landed on the black Cerberus body. Every time a strand of black gas landed on the black Cerberus, a ripple would appear around the black Cerberus. The ripple would then land on the walls of the cavern and cause the cavern to roar again. For the next couple of days, Grandmaster Qin Qin had been patiently injecting the black threads into Black Hound's body. Seeing the black energies gradually becoming complete, Xiaohua finally understood. So, this is how the soul treasures of millions of Ming Mountains are repaired. This is really out of... I can't say that it's out of my expectations. Isn't the fixing of a magical treasure also fixing the formation and the body of the treasure? Since it's a spirit treasure, then the spirit soul inside must be repaired. 10,000 weapons return to origin. Grandmaster Hua Qin is right. In the past 10 days or so, Master Qin Qin didn't say a word to Xiaohua. She seemed to be concentrating on repairing the dog and didn't dare to be distracted in the slightest. In the end, there was only a small flaw in the dog's ear. Master Qin Qin let out a long sigh. She turned to Xiaohua and said, "Jinren Xiao, I'm sorry you had to see this. It seems, to cultivators, repairing soul tools is similar to repairing clothes in the mortal world, right? If Grandmaster really thinks so, then it's not impossible." Xiaohua laughed and said, "Left and right are all mended. Magic tools are like that. Spirit treasures are like that. Clothes are also like that." Ha ha ha. Taoist Master Zhao's words have enlightened me. Master Qin Qin laughed heartily. She pointed at the black dog and said, "Spiritual Master Xiao has been watching from the side for a long time. He already knows how to repair this spirit treasure. If he knows how to refine this spirit treasure and how to control the soul strands, I'm afraid he can also repair this fallen soul lamp?" Xiaohua nodded and said without hiding anything, "Indeed. This black dog is the core spirit of this spirit treasure. It's like the array of a magic tool or the spirit treasure's spirit treasure. It knows how to cultivate the array and the spirit treasure's spirit treasure. It only needs to be repaired slightly to succeed. This is not a difficult task for me. But the problem is, how to refine this spirit treasure and how to refine this spirit treasure. I don't know anything about it. The array of the Taoist sect has always been difficult for me to understand." Master Qin Qin finally began to teach Xiaohua again. A few talismans and a few spirit stones can produce unparalleled power. Although it can't be considered profound, it still has its own uniqueness. Since Spiritual Master Xiao can refine spirit treasures, you must also be proficient in refining spirit treasures. Perhaps. Xiaohua laughed and said, "This is Ming Mountain's secret. I don't dare to be so bold as to covet it. Actually, I'm sure Taoist Master Xiao has already figured out the problem of young Master Li suffering from the backlash of the spirit artifact when I was repairing the spirit artifact. We can start from repairing the spirit artifact's artifact spirit and let young Master Li nurture the spirit artifact. He can grow along with the artifact spirit and gradually eliminate the hidden danger of the backlash." Grandmaster Qin Qin said after thinking for a while. "Indeed." Xiaohua nodded. "Grandmaster had already given us some hints before you repaired the soul lamp, so this humble one has been thinking about this problem. However, Xiaohua can't use the green seal script. I'm afraid it won't be easy to repair the artifact spirit." Of course, Great Master Qin Qin took a deep breath and looked at Xiaohua solemnly. "Taoist Xiao, as I said before, I have the true method of tempering soul strands, the method of creating soul remembrance, and even the true cultivation method of the 9 heavens of spirit origin. I can give all of this to Taoist Xiao, but I beg you to do something for me." "Hee, Grandmaster, you can speak frankly about this matter." Xiaohua laughed and said, "Even if you don't have these things, this humble one can still do something for Grandmaster that doesn't go against his conscience." Hee. Great Master Qin Qin also smiled. "However, later on, I found out that Taoist Xiao is Taoist Xiao, and that you can bring benefits to Ming Mountain. Later on, when I found out that Taoist Xiao is also a Grandmaster artifact refiner, I changed my mind. Even if Taoist Xiao doesn't do this, my artifact refiner. Yes, according to the Tao sect, it's a Tao orthodoxy. I still have to hand it over to Taoist Xiao. Whether Taoist Xiao comprehends it yourself or helps me find a successor, it's all up to Taoist Xiao." "Ah?" Xiaohua was baffled. He pointed at his nose and said, "Grandmaster, could it be you wanted me to help you find a successor?" "Indeed." Great Master Qin said without hiding anything. -11. Chapter 2868. That's strange. Xiao Hua shook his head vigorously. This is really not in line with the heavenly Tao. You have so many disciples here, but why don't you find a suitable master? Besides, can't you find a fated person to pass down your orthodoxy to? Or can't you ask your disciples to find one? Also, don't you have the rejuvenation pill? After you finish repairing the soul-losing lamp, you can take it yourself. Perhaps you can even regain your youth and take in 8 or 10 more disciples. Why did you find me, a cultivator of Taoist sect? If not, you can also find Ziming? These questions, I won't answer you. Master Qin said with a smile. I have my reasons for giving it to you. And this old man also believes in you. You are a benevolent cultivator. Even if you can't find a suitable disciple for this old man's orthodoxy, you will certainly be able to use this old man's refining skills to refine a suitable soul weapon. This soul weapon will not do evil at will. This old man can rest in peace in the arms of Hu to God. Xiao Hua was a little dazed by this pie that fell from the sky. He had been coveting the soul cultivation technique for a long time, and he wanted to come to Mount Ming to get some. But before he could do anything, Master Qin had offered it to him with both hands, and even the artifact refining technique of soul cultivation. He really couldn't believe that such a joyous event had happened. I'll think about it again. Xiao Hua actually declined. Taoist Xiao, you don't have time to think about it. Master Qin pointed at the black dog and said, this soul is almost fully repaired, and now is the most critical moment. Without Taoist, I only have a 40% chance of success. But with Taoist, I have a 90% chance. In half an incense stick's worth of time, I will finish repairing the soul item, and I will need Taoist help at that time. If I succeed, that will be good, but if I fail, I will return to the arms of Hu to Great God. Of course, this has nothing to do with Taoist. Whether I succeed or not, Taoist will not be harmed. Therefore, Taoist needs to give me an answer now. Can I give it to other disciples? Xiao Hua asked in the end. Of course not. Master Qin said with a smile. If I could, I wouldn't have said so much to Taoist. All right, Xiao Hua nodded. This is an extremely good thing for little Ku. How could little Ku not agree? However, I must say that Xiao Hua will take a look at it yourself. But I can't guarantee that you can find a disciple to pass down this orthodoxy. Good. Seeing that Xiao Hua had agreed, Master Qin was overjoyed. She pulled out the brocade pouch and handed it to Xiao Hua. Everything I have is here. I've written some superficial things on a jade slip. Taoist Xiao, please take a look when you have the time. You'll understand my intentions. All right, I'll try my best to fulfill your wish. Xiao Hua nimbly took the brocade pouch and placed it in his bosom. Then, he bowed and said, in addition, although Grandmaster didn't impart his skills in name, he did impart his skills. Please accept this humble one's respect. Hee. All right. Master Qin did not hold back and accepted Xiao Hua's bow. Reverend, you have a rejuvenation pill that can replenish your life essence. In the future, you won't have to worry about your life essence being depleted when you use green seal runes to refine soul artifacts. My crafting skills in the soul refining cave will definitely flourish in Reverend's hands. Even in the embrace of Hu to God, I will be happy. I hope so. Xiao Hua stood up and said with a smile. He had already said that he must take a look at the soul refining technique in this brocade pouch. Master Qin heaved a sigh of relief after explaining the matter. Just as she was about to speak, Xiao Hua seemed to have thought of something and spoke first. Oh right, I still have a question to ask Master. It's just that. I didn't dare to trust Master before, so I didn't say it. Now, I have to ask. Oh? Enlightened Master, please speak. Master Qin was not surprised and nodded. Xiao Hua clapped his hand and took out the oil lamp that he accidentally obtained in the secret auction in Weeping Moon City. He respectfully handed it to Master Qin and said, Master, this is something that I accidentally obtained. If I'm not mistaken, the cultivator who traded with me should be a nascent soul cultivator. He said, this item is probably something from the 10,000 demon realm. A soul warrior summoned a soul demon from the 10,000 demon realm and brought it here. Soul demon? 10,000 demon realm? Master Qin Qin took the oil lamp and coughed twice. Her bent body seemed to be even weaker. After she carefully looked at it, she nodded slightly and said, "Reverend is right. This item is not a soul artifact of my Ming Mountain, nor is it a magical item of Sword Realm or Dao Sect. It should be something from the 10,000 demon realm." Then she hesitated for a moment and said with an uncertain tone, "As for what it is, I'm not sure. However, in the past, when this old man was unable to master it, he had seen something similar to this item. This item is called a spirit treasure in my Ming Mountain. It's quite similar to your Dao Sect spirit treasure." Oh. Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. He thought that this item was a soul artifact, but he didn't expect it to be a spirit treasure. If that was the case, then he had taken advantage of it. "Haha, Reverend, this spirit treasure is different from your Dao Sect spirit treasure." Master Qin Qin laughed. "If it's a real spirit treasure, how could a nascent soul cultivator be willing to trade it?" "That's true." Xiao Hua scratched his head, embarrassed. "The reason why I call it a spirit treasure is because it's rare, and it's formed from the spirit of a demon beast. That's why it's worthy of the word spirit." Master Qin Qin explained again, "As for the soul warrior who can summon a soul demon, if I'm not mistaken, it should be the descendant of the great god Dijiang of Ming Mountain. They have the ability to tear space and summon a soul demon from the 10,000 demon realm. Of course, it could also be the work of the ancient races in my Ming Mountain that I mentioned earlier. This spirit treasure should be formed from the spirit of the soul demon. This thing, how do I control it?" Xiao Hua took the oil lamp from Master Qin Qin and asked impatiently, "A spirit treasure is a real spirit treasure in the hands of a soul demon. If it's in the hands of a soul warrior of Ming Mountain, he can only control it with his soul sense and a special soul technique. However, its power is incomparable to the spirit treasure of your Dao Sect." Master Qin Qin shook her head slightly. "Instead of focusing on this thing, Reverend Xiao Hua should refine more spirit treasures." "Yes, I've learned something." Xiao Hua felt a little regretful. He put away the oil lamp and said, "Actually, I took this thing out for 2 reasons. First, I want to know its origin. Second, we're both lamps. I want to see if this thing can be used to repair the soul-falling lamp." Reverend Xiao Hua is very thoughtful. Master Qin Qin nodded, looked at Black Hound, and said, "Reverend Xiao, when you refine spirit treasures, do you control the power of bloodline?" Xiao Hua knew that the power of bloodline mentioned by Master Qin Qin was the demon realm's blood fusion technique. He opened his mouth, and a wisp of spirit fire flew out. As Xiao Hua performed the fire-controlling art, the spirit fire turned into a tiny fire snake that shuttled back and forth in the air. This is the demon realm's artifact refining technique? Master Qin Qin was indeed knowledgeable. She immediately saw through it and cried out in astonishment, "Reverend Xiao, you know so much." "Haha, I'm just lucky." Xiao Hua smiled. "Alas, no wonder." Master Qin Qin sighed. "That day, I was very confused. I didn't know how the Dao Sect's artifact refining technique controlled the power of bloodline. If Reverend Xiao knew the demon realm's artifact refining technique, this would be easy." Then, Master Qin Qin opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence, saying, "Reverend Xiao, please do it." All right, Xiao Hua did not hold back. He controlled the spirit fire and tempered the blood essence bit by bit. Gradually, a tiny human figure appeared. Roar! Upon seeing the blood-colored avatar appear and Master Qin Qin controlling the green seal text, the entire soul-tempering cave emitted a strange sound once again. Wisps of black gas appeared again and were sent into the Black Hound by Master Qin Qin. After half a day, the last wisp of black gas was sent into the Black Dog. Then, Master Qin Qin shouted, "Reverend Xiao, send the power of bloodline into the soul." All right. Xiao Hua shook his hand, and the blood-colored avatar flew into the air. Before Xiao Hua could release the soul strands, Master Qin Qin's soul strands grabbed the blood-colored avatar and sent it into the Black Dog. Woof! As the little person entered the Black Dog's body, a clear bark rang out. The entire Black Dog began to move. All of the black gas and green light entered the black dog's mouth along with the bark. Even the azure surrounding the soul-refining cave was torn apart, turning into blue waves that fell into the black gas mouth. Woof! Another soft bark sounded. A blurry black shadow appeared in the air. It looked like smoke, but also like a ghost's hand. Crack! With a thunderous sound, Master Chin Chin activated another green seal rune. This green seal rune landed directly on the black shadow. The black shadow disappeared the moment it touched the green seal rune. The green seal rune also turned into specks of light and fell to the left. Woof woof! The black dog seemed to be angry and kept barking. Then, one black shadow after another appeared around the black dog. Reverend Xiao, help me, Master Chin Chin shouted anxiously. How do I help? Xiao Hua was confused. Use the flame to envelop the soul. Master Chin Chin said anxiously. Okay, when Xiao Hua heard that it was so simple, he quickly activated the spirit flame. Sure enough, the black dog in the soul was afraid of the spirit flame. It didn't dare to move when it was enveloped by the spirit flame. Occasionally, it would touch the spirit flame, but it would be burned into smoke. Master Chin Chin chanted a few more green seal text and killed the black shadow summoned by the black dog. Then, she took a deep breath and withdrew all the soul strands into her body. She opened her mouth and a huge green seal text spun and enveloped the black dog. Wong, a loud roar came from the green seal text, causing Xiao Hua's heart to tremble. Reverend Xiao Hua, quickly withdraw the spirit flame. Master Chin Chin's voice sounded like an ant in front of the green seal text. -11. Chapter 2869. Hearing this, Xiao Hua hurriedly opened his mouth, and the spiritual fire turned into a fire snake and returned. The black dog, who had lost the restraint of the spiritual fire, was about to bark. However, at this moment, the green seal script fell on the black dog's body, and all the black gas was wrapped up by the green seal script, emitting a green light. As the green light flashed, the black dog became smaller and smaller, and the soul-falling lamp was born from the black dog's body. The black gas of the black dog gradually solidified and turned into the shape of the soul-falling lamp. Phew! Seeing that the green seal script had disappeared and the soul-summoning lamp had returned to normal with a flash of black light, Master Chin Chin heaved a sigh of relief. She shook her head and said, Spiritual Master Xiao, if it weren't for you, this black dog would have escaped. My soul-refining cave couldn't trap it at all. Haha, I was lucky. Xiao Hua smiled and pointed at the lamp again. He asked, Has the lamp been repaired? Can it be lit? Of course not. Master Ma Qin shook her head. Although the soul-losing lamp has been completely repaired, it still requires the blood of the Hutu Great God's descendant to be dripped on it, the incantation of the Hutu Great God, and the blessing of the Great God to light it up. Haha, then I'd like to see the appearance and power of the soul-falling lamp after it's lit. Xiao Hua said expectantly. Spiritual Master Xiao, you'll be disappointed. Although Ziming is the descendant of Hutu Great God, her blood can still be used. Master Chin Chin slowly walked to the soul-falling lamp. At this moment, his hair and beard were all white, and he looked like an old man. He reached out his hand and took the soul-falling lamp, saying, however, the soul-falling lamp can only be lit in the ancestral temple of Hutu village. This is a kind of ancestral rule and a kind of ritual. Without the blessing of the previous generation's Grand Elder and G-Man, Ziming can't light up the soul-falling lamp. It's so complicated. Xiao Hua couldn't understand. I've already said that the power of blood and the mystery of the soul are the most mysterious things in the world. That's the reason. Master Chin Chin said as she walked away. Let's go. This matter is over. I don't want to stay here any longer. Following which, Master Chin Chin took out the green finger bone and opened the door to the soul-refining cave. It was already sunset and Ziming, Fairy Hong Xia, and the others were waiting outside the cave. When they saw Xiao Hua and Master Chin Chin walking out safely, the two of them couldn't help but walk over quickly. Grandmaster. Ziming wanted to say something, but hesitated, as if he was afraid to hear the result. His gaze fell on the soul-losing lamp in Grandmaster Enai Qin's hand. Fortunately, I did not disappoint you. Master Qin looked at the sky, and her wrinkled face twitched slightly. Then, she handed the soul-losing lamp to Ziming and said, "With Taoist Master Zhao's help, it has been completely repaired. Ziming can ask Elder Wu and G-Man to light it up when he returns to the ancestral shrine." "Thank you, Grandmaster." "Thank you, young Master Xiao." Ziming cautiously received them. Not only was his face filled with joy, but his eyes were also filled with tears. "Don't mention it, don't mention it." Xiaohua waved his hand. "Thank you, Grandmaster." Looking at Grandmaster's face, I know how hard it was for Grandmaster. "That's right, Grandmaster. You should quickly consume the rejuvenation pill." Ziming kept the soul-losing lamp and hurriedly said, "Junior will wait in the valley. When Grandmaster regains his youth, Junior will thank Grandmaster again." "Hee, no need." Master Qin laughed. "When I was repairing the spirit treasure, I chatted with Taoist Master Xiao for a long time. From him, I learned a lot of refining techniques. Now, I am going to use the rejuvenation pill to go into seclusion for a while. During this period, it is better not to be disturbed. Ziming, bring Taoist Master Xiao and the others and leave this place now. When you light up the soul-losing lamp, I will bring my disciples to Huda village and observe the ceremony with Elder Wu and G-Man." "Grandmaster, is there a need to be so anxious?" Xiaohua was puzzled and asked softly. "Hee, I can't wait to see the effects of the rejuvenation pill." Master Qin laughed. "Furthermore, the people of Huta village are in deep trouble. Ziming's problem has been solved. Shouldn't you consider your own people? Taoist Master Xiao wants to help Ziming. How can I dare to keep a few people here?" "This is true." Ziming nodded. "Junior's maids have not arrived yet. I don't know what happened on the way here. Young Master Zhao's millet seeds are very important. The earlier we send them back to Huda village, the more lives we can save. Junior understands. Junior will bring young Master Xiao and the others back to Huta village." "There is no news about Ziming's maids? Is there news about Hitorigami?" Xiaohua was anxious when he heard. "Yes, it should be about Hitorigami." Ziming nodded. "Otherwise, they would have come here long ago." "All right, Grandmaster Qin. Then I will not stay here any longer." As the matter involved Xiao Mao, Xiaohua did not dare to be careless. He quickly bowed and said, "Grandmaster, I will definitely do what you say." "Yes, I believe in Taoist Master." Grandmaster Qin nodded and reached out to hold Xiaohua's wrist. Xiaohua hesitated but did not avoid her. "Let's go. I will send Taoist Master Xiao and the others out of the valley." "Thank you, Grandmaster." Xiaohua and the others replied respectfully. Xiaohua and Grandmaster Qin walked at the front. One was extremely tall, and the other was extremely short. They looked like an adult holding a child's hand. However, Ziming, Fairy Hongxia, and the others, as well as a few disciples who came later, looked at them respectfully. No one dared to show any disrespect. Xiaohua and Grandmaster Qin's figures were elongated in the afterglow. They were reflected on the stone steps leading to the peak, moving bit by bit. By the time they reached the reception stage, the sky was already dark. Everyone said a few words, and Li Zongbao took out the flowing cloud airship. The four of them stepped onto the airship and bid farewell to Grandmaster Qin before flying off into the distance. Grandmaster Qin watched as the airship disappeared into the distance. She slowly turned her head with an indescribable expression on her face. She did not say a word. When she reached the top of the stairs, she gritted her teeth and ordered, "Qingming, I will not go down. Hurry up and inform the disciples of the valley to come to the reception stage immediately." This? Qingming was taken aback, but he immediately bowed and said, "This disciple understands. This disciple will go down and inform them." "Good. Go and come back quickly." Grandmaster Qin looked up at the sky and urged, "Everyone must come up in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Do not delay for even a moment." Yes, Qingming didn't dare to delay. He hurriedly waved his soul armament and flew down the stairs. The other two disciples were strangely accompanying Master Enai Qin. Grandmaster Qin Qin watched as Qing Ming flew down. She looked around and randomly found a place to sit down. Then, she put her hand into her bosom and took out the rejuvenation pill given by Zi Ming. She looked at it carefully, then looked at the pitch-black valley. She opened her mouth and was about to swallow the rejuvenation pill. Xiao Hua and the others boarded the airship and flew for a long time in the night. They watched as the bright moonlight gradually turned into a light red color. Then, the light red color darkened and turned into a blood-red color. The millions of Ming Mountains, which were originally filled with shadows, became even more mysterious under the blood-red moonlight. A bloody feeling emerged in everyone's eyes. Xiao Hua sat cross-legged on the airship. He wasn't controlling the airship to fly. Instead, he was comprehending what he had learned over the past few days and thinking about how to repair Li Zhongbao's spirit artifact. He wasn't in a hurry to check Grandmaster Qin Qin's pouch. He knew very well that the pouch contained all of Grandmaster Qin Qin's treasures. It was bound to be vast. If he were to check it now, he might be distracted and delay his own cultivation. There were many techniques that he needed to comprehend. These soul cultivation techniques, he would have to wait until he had the time to do so. When the blood-red moon came into being, Xiao Hua felt a slight disturbance from the dark clouds and was pulled out of his comprehension. Xiao Hua raised his head to look at the blood moon, then looked at Zi Ming, who was kneeling on the flying boat. He asked curiously, "Zi Ming, why are you doing this? We have been here for a long time now, but I don't think we've ever seen anything as strange as this." Zi Ming seemed to have something on his mind. As soon as he boarded the airship, he sat down. Unlike when he was whispering to Fairy Hong Xia, when the blood-red moon rose, he immediately knelt on the airship and chanted something in a low voice. At the same time, his hands were constantly moving. It looked somewhat similar to the Dao Sect's incantations. Ziming didn't immediately answer Xiaohua's question. Instead, he closed his eyes and chanted. After the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the blood-red light of the blood-red moon began to fade. The red light was mixed with a pure white color. Zi Ming then stood up respectfully from the airship and looked at the blood-red moon in the sky. "Young Master Xiao, you may not know this, but for the sake of the reproduction and inheritance of the Wu tribe, the great god Hutu of Ming Mountain transformed into the 9 underworlds. When she succeeded, the heavens and earth changed colors, and the sun and moon cried for her. This moon weeping is a rare night sacrifice in Ming Mountain." Oh? Xiao Hua had naturally heard Grandmaster Qin Qin's explanation in the soul-refining cave. He opened his eyes slightly and looked up at the blood-red moon in the night sky. It's because the great god Hutu gave up her eternal life that the lineage of Ming Mountain can control the power of souls, and the people of Hutu stronghold can control ghosts. Even the souls of the human race can only return to the embrace of the great god Hutu after the fall of our fleshly body. Ziming explained sincerely, moreover, every night during the night of the great god Hutu's sacrifice, the entire Ming Mountain will be covered in the color of blood. The heavens and earth will be grateful, and the people will be grateful. Even some soul beasts will come out from their hiding places and offer sacrifices to the great god Hutu to express their gratitude for the great god Hutu's virtue. Oh! Even that Hamba will come out from his hiding place tonight to offer sacrifices to the great god Hutu. Perhaps it's because Hamba sensed that the night of sacrifice will be held that he appeared in Ming Mountain in advance? I see. Xiao Hua nodded, but he was also puzzled. There was only one moon in the Xiaoyu continent. Why hadn't he seen the blood-red moon in all these years in the state of Xi? Xiao Hua thought for a moment, then asked cautiously, "Does the night of sacrifice of the great god Huda happen every year?" No, Ziming shook his head. According to the records of the Stronghold's Magus canon, it may be 10 years, or 100 years. It's not certain. -11. Chapter 2870. Xiao Hua looked at Fairy Hong Xia. Her snow-white face was stained with blood, making her look rather strange. An indescribable wildness flashed from her dark red eyes. Hiss! Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of cold air and frowned. He took a closer look and realized that Fairy Hongxia's face was very calm. The expression in her eyes was also very indifferent. It was just that when the blood-red color was reflected in those black eyes of hers, it gave him this illusion. Xiaohua looked at Ziming again and found that he was the same. Other than the sacrificial night of Hu to great god, what other uses does this moon tear have? Xiaohua asked again. Well, Ziming hesitated for a moment and said, according to the ancient legends, the moon tear is the divine eye of the Hu to god. Under the bloody light, it can investigate the right and wrong of Ming Mountain, and all the evil spirits will be wiped out. Many of the sacrificial ceremonies in Huta village will be held during this sacrificial night. If I were to light up my soul falling lamp at this time, it will be easy for me to obtain the blessing of Huta great god. Elder Wu won't even need to do anything. After hearing what Sister said, I also thought of my Dao sect's ghost festival. Fairy Hong Xia interrupted. On the day of the ghost festival, the 9 underworlds' door will open. Hundreds of ghosts will roam the mountain and all living things will avoid taboo. Ziming was a little unhappy when he heard that. However, he looked at Xiaohua and did not say anything. After a moment, he said, when Huta great god opens her divine eye, it is also the time when Huta great god opens her arms. If you can enter the arms of Huta great god at this time, you will definitely obtain the mercy of Huta great god and preserve the consciousness of these descendants of Ming Mountain. On the day of reincarnation, you will still retain the memories of this life? Oh? Xiaohua was slightly stunned and asked curiously, Isn't this similar to my Dao sect's condensed knowledge treasure? What is condensed knowledge treasure? Ziming was puzzled again. After Xiaohua explained, Ziming smiled and said, condensed knowledge treasure is condensed from cultivation techniques and other things. What the people of Ming Mountain leave behind is all the memories of this life. Therefore, some old soul warriors who feel that they don't have much life essence will organize their legacy and wait for the Huta great god's sacrificial night so that they can safely and smoothly return to the Huta great god's embrace, so that they can retain all their memories and reincarnate into the future. Elder sister, isn't this night of sacrifice something that might not even appear for 100 years? Wouldn't that be a waste of time? Fairy Hong Xia laughed. Hee, you're right. How can it be so easy to find all of them? Ziming also laughed. According to the Magus Codex, only 1 in 10,000 people can actually find one. Of course, as the saying goes, there's no harm in being prepared. If one of them receives the grace of Hutu, then, I understand, just as Ziming was explaining. Xiaohua suddenly came to a realization and couldn't help but cry out, Young Master Xiao? Ziming looked at Xiaohua with some surprise. Even Fairy Hong Xia was stunned. It was very rare for Xiaohua to lose his composure like this. Master Hua Qin. Xiaohua frowned, somewhat at a loss for words. But this still isn't right. Young Master Xiao, what's going on? When Ziming heard that Master Hua Qin was involved, he hurriedly asked, What's wrong with Master Hua Qin? Alas, Master Qin told me something inexplicable when she repaired the soul-losing lamp, which made me very confused. Now that Ziming mentioned the sacrificial night of Huda Grand God, I feel. Although Master Qin didn't tell Xiaohua about the secret, Xiaohua still explained it vaguely. I'm afraid that Master Qin has already known that it's the sacrificial night of Huda Grand God tonight. Therefore, she has long prepared to return to the arms of Huta Grand God tonight. Impossible. Ziming immediately said decisively, the night of sacrifice of Hutu doesn't have any pattern. No one can know in advance that the night of sacrifice of Hutu is coming. Moreover, Master Hua Qin has taken the rejuvenation pill. Even if she can't recover her youth, she definitely won't return to the arms of Hutu tonight. But Xiaohua naturally felt that this explanation was a bit strange, but if he wanted to think of other reasons, he really couldn't think of any. Forget it. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Let's not talk about it now. No. Ziming suddenly shouted, Young Master Li, please stop the airboat. I feel that something is wrong. What's wrong? Li Zongbao had been driving the airboat all this time. After all, soul cultivation was different from Taoism, so the explanation of the blood moon was different. He wasn't close to Ziming, so it was better not to talk about it. Previously, I asked Master Hua Qin to help me twice, but he didn't agree. Ziming explained, However, each time, he would let me stay in the valley for a few days. But today, something is wrong. Although he is a bit tired, he shouldn't have sent us out immediately. In particular, if he is tired, why did he personally send us to the reception desk? Xiao Hua was already puzzled, so when he heard this, he nodded. If he hadn't been worried about Xiao Mao and was in a hurry to find Ziming's maidservants, he definitely wouldn't have left the valley so easily. Moreover, I felt that the maidservants didn't come to find me because they encountered Hamba. Ziming continued, but now that I think about it carefully, if they encountered Hamba, they would have sent me a message immediately. Even if they were all killed by Hamba, I would definitely have sensed it. Ah? Xiao Hua was shocked. After thinking about it carefully, he realized that it was indeed the case. Therefore, I have to return to the valley and carefully plan with Master Hua Qin. Ziming said again, I also need to borrow Master Hua Qin's soul tool to find the location of my maidservants. Senior brother, quickly return. Xiao Hua nodded. He also had a bad feeling in his heart. He didn't know if it was because of Master Hua Qin's strange condition or because of the blood moon, but since Master Hua Qin treated him so well, he would definitely repay her generously. Okay, Li Zongbao obeyed and turned the airship around. Under the blood moon, they flew back to where they came from. Several hundred kilometers in front of the airship, there was also a blood moon. In a cave, there were a dozen natives dressed in strange clothing. Their faces were all covered, only revealing 2 eyes. In the innermost part of the cave, there were 9 people dressed in black. Their entire bodies were covered in black, making it impossible to see their faces. It was impossible to tell if they were soul warriors or natives. The inside of the cave was shrouded in a black mist. Under the blood moon's light, there was a hazy blood moon that seemed to be on the surface of the water. The blood moon's light was faintly discernible. The blood moon's light was slowly moving, but it suddenly stopped and then faded away again. G. One of the natives facing the mist hurriedly waved a soul tool that looked like a water bottle in his hand. Then he muttered an incantation and a green light fell down, causing the blood moon's light to become clear again. Io, why did it turn around? A hoarse voice sounded in shock. Reporting to my lord, this subordinate doesn't know either. Maybe it's because this subordinate's soul technique didn't work during the sacrificial night? The native hurriedly argued. Or maybe she realized something was wrong. It's fine. Without waiting for the native to finish his words, the hoarse voice waved his hand and ordered, no matter where she goes this time, she'll die without a burial place. If she returns, she'll die even faster. Let's go. As the master, who had also concealed himself, walked out of the cave, the other natives hurriedly followed him out. Only after the natives left did the 9 black-robed people move. Strangely, the 9 of them walked together in unison. Although their faces were covered with black cloth, they easily walked out of the cave. The bloody night gradually faded away, and the snow-like moonlight slowly came. It was like a late awakening. When the flying boat was still far away from the soul-refining cave, Xiao Hua couldn't help but release his Buddhist awareness. When he saw the situation on the reception platform and everything in the valley, he finally understood the meaning of Master Go Qin's words and why Master Go Qin invited him to watch him repair the soul-losing lamp. At the same time, he finally understood the painstaking efforts and helplessness of Master Go Qin to hand over his mantle to him. Master Go Qin, how is it? Ziming might have soul sense, but she clearly knew that her cultivation wasn't as strong as Xiao Hua's. She was constantly observing Xiao Hua's expression. When she saw Xiao Hua raise an eyebrow, she immediately asked, Ziming. Xiao Hua didn't know how to explain, so he just sighed and said, Sai, you should see for yourself. Xiao Hua's sigh had said everything that needed to be said. Ziming felt a chill in her heart, and she bit her lips with her pearly white teeth. A cold gleam flickered in her eyes. From afar, one could see that under the moonlight, a small body was lying on the welcoming platform. Around this body were a few corpses. There were no bloodstains near these corpses, but the pale white moonlight that looked like snow reflected off the welcoming platform and shone on these people of Ming Mountains, who had returned to the embrace of Huta Great God. The bloodstains on their heads, the cracks on their skulls, and the pitch-black holes between the cracks were truly a shocking sight. Li Zongbao stopped the airship in midair. Before the airship could land, Ziming flew out from the airship. With some white mist swirling under her feet, she flew straight to Master Go Qin's side. "Master!" Ziming let out a sorrowful cry and knelt down. Xiao Hua sighed in his heart as he followed behind Ziming and landed on the ground. Master Qin's eyes were wide open, as if she was unwilling to close her eyes. However, there was neither disbelief nor astonishment in her eyes. Instead, there was an abnormal calmness in her eyes, as if she had seen through everything and understood everything. Looking at Ziming's sorrowful face, Xiao Hua glanced around again. The other disciples were not as transcendent as Master Go Qin. Some of them had ferocious expressions, some were panicking, and some were at a loss, as if they had never expected their own deaths. -11. Chapter 28:71. Xiao Hua. Fairy Hong Xia flew to Xiao Hua's side, shrank her neck, and whispered, "I feel a little cold, and I'm scared from the bottom of my heart. Don't be afraid." Xiao Hua was also a little scared. After all, from the signs on the reception platform, it seemed that not long after they left the reception platform and before Master and I Qin returned to the valley, he and his disciple were killed. At that time, they were not even dozens of miles away, right? If they had left a little later, or if he had used his Buddhist sense, the situation might have been different. However, fate seemed to be playing tricks on people. He was worried about Xiao Mao, and because his divine sense was injured, he did not use his Buddhist sense. Thinking of the Buddhist consciousness, Xiao Hua's heart stirred. He patted Fairy Hong Xia's hand and pulled her in front of Ziming, saying in a low voice, "Ziming, this Xiao has a secret technique that can be used to find the situation of Grandmaster Enai Qin's death from his dead soul." Ziming raised his head, his eyes red. After thinking for a while, he shook his head and said, "Young Master Xiao, I'm afraid you're talking about the Taoist sect soul-searching technique. Ming Mountain also has this kind of soul-searching technique. But young Master Xiao doesn't know that during the night of sacrifice, all the souls returned to the embrace of Huta Great God and did not stay in this world. Even if young Master Xiao uses the soul-searching technique now, I'm afraid you won't be able to find anything." "Not necessarily." Xiao Hua did not believe it. Ziming said again, "Besides, even if Master Enai Qin's soul is still here, we can't disturb him." Although Master Go Qin had been killed, for Master Go Qin, meeting the night sacrifice was a blessing in disguise. It was also a blessing that Huda God had given him for his whole life. If he was reincarnated as a human being, he would certainly be another master of refining who would achieve greater achievements in the future. If we disturb him, we will make Master Enai Qin lose the blessing from Huda Great God. Not only will we be disrespecting Master Enai Qin, but also Huta Great God. All right, Xiao Hua nodded. He could only respect Ziming's opinion and hope that Master Enai Qin could retain the memories of this life and be reincarnated as a human. By the way, when will Master Enai Qin reincarnate? Is it still in Ming Mountain? Xiao Hua thought of Enai Qin's request. Ziming shook his head slightly. No one knows. It could be tomorrow, or 10 years, or 100 years, or even 1,000 years. Maybe it's Ming Mountain, maybe it's the Sword Domain, or maybe it's the 3 Kingdoms of Cultivation. Hearing Ziming's words, Xiao Hua nodded. Then, he looked at the dark night sky and the dark valley that gave off a strange atmosphere. He said, "How should we deal with the corpses of Master Enai Qin and her disciple? Young Master Xiao, please bring their corpses to this reception table." Ziming said without hesitation, "Your body must be given to Hutu before the sacrificial night, or it will affect their reincarnation." "All right, you wait here." Xiao Hua nodded and flew into the valley. Fairy Hong Xia hurriedly shouted, "Xiao Lang, you, be careful." "Yes, I know." Xiao Hua turned around and smiled. He looked at the reception table and then looked around. After thinking for a moment, he clapped his hand and took out the capital star formation jade talisman. He placed it around everyone and activated the capital star formation. Then, he said, "I don't know if the murderer who killed Master Enai Qin is still here. You all be careful and don't leave this formation. All right, I know. You be careful too. Ziming's eyes flashed with relief. He carried Master and I Chin's corpse and was about to place it in the center of the capital star formation when Ziming suddenly exclaimed, "Young Master Xiao, Master and I Chin, did not take your rejuvenation pill. Moreover, the jade box is in her hands. The rejuvenation pill is gone." Master and I Chin's hand that was holding the jade box was pressed under her body. Xiao Hua and the others did not see it. Now that Ziming carried the corpse, her hand was exposed. The jade box containing the rejuvenation pill naturally fell out as well. Oh, is that so? Xiao Hua was surprised. He looked at the empty jade box and then reached into Master and I Chin's clothes. There was a dark green bamboo joint in her clothes. It was the soul armament used to open the soul refining cave. There were also a few other things, but there was no trace of the rejuvenation pill. Strange. Xiao Hua was somewhat baffled. Senior brother, can you see if the other disciples have any rejuvenation pills on them? Xiao Hua ordered. Flying out from the capital star formation, he clapped his hand to take out the wishful staff. Looking at the night wind, he flew down the mountain. However, as soon as he flew to the top of the stairs, he saw a corpse lying on the ground about 10 zhang in front of him. That corpse was Qing Ming, who had welcomed Xiao Hua earlier. Qing Ming's face was filled with shock and pain. There was also a big hole in his head. His brain had long disappeared, and dried blood was stuck to his head. Good. Xiao Hua reached out and grabbed Qing Ming's corpse. Just as he was about to return to the reception stage, he heard Ziming shout from the high platform, "Young Master Xiao, come quickly." Xiao Hua's heart trembled. He did not have time to use his Buddhist sense to sweep out. His figure immediately used the wind escape technique to fly back. Fortunately, there were still 3 living people in the capital star formation. However, the corpses of Master and I Chin and several other disciples were placed on the reception stage by Ziming and the others. Their heads were slightly tilted, and one of their feet was slightly raised. It was an extremely strange posture. Young Master Xiao, seeing Xiao Hua return, Ziming hurriedly pointed to the ground where Master and I Chin had fallen and said, "Look, this was left by Master and I Chin." Xiao Hua handed Qing Ming's corpse to Li Zongbao and squatted down to carefully examine it. On the ground, close to where the jade box had fallen, there was a faint and indistinct bloodstain left on the mountain rock. The bloodstain seemed to be a talisman character, but it also seemed to be a mark. Xiao Hua was baffled when he saw it. "Young Master Xiao, this is a simple witchcraft incantation used by the natives of Ming Mountains." Ziming explained, "If we use the words of Taoist sect to describe it, it can be interpreted as death or 6. So, the reason why Master and I Chin left this bloodstain before her death is to tell us who killed her?" Xiao Hua frowned and said hesitantly, "Death, 6, what does it mean? Is it the name of the murderer?" Ziming was also puzzled. After pondering for a while, Xiao Hua could not find the trick. He looked around the valley and said, "I'd better go to the valley and have a look. If Master and I Chin's disciples are not alive, we must hurry before dawn." After saying that, Xiao Hua looked at the pile of corpses in a strange posture and said, "Let them return to Huda God's embrace as soon as possible." "Thank you for your trouble, young Master Xiao," Ziming said with relief when he saw Xiao Hua was so considerate, ignoring his own safety and going to the dangerous place. Xiao Hua jumped down from the reception platform, held the wishful staff in his hand, and released his Buddhist sense. His figure slowly flew down the stairs. He had a hunch that the murderer of Master and I Chin had not left, and was still hiding somewhere in the valley, waiting for the next attack. Since it was before dawn, it was even darker. The wind blew in the valley, scraping the dry treetops and stone walls, making a very strange sound. Moreover, there was an inexplicable fluctuation coming from different places in the valley, which made Xiao Hua shudder. However, when he heard the movement, Xiao Hua released his Buddhist sense, but he could not find anything strange. Everything was like this, which made Xiao Hua feel a sense of crisis. This soul cultivator, this million Ming Mountains is really strange. Xiao Hua flew carefully and thought to himself, "It's more terrifying than the Ghost Festival or the 100 Ghost Parade." Thinking of this, Xiao Hua came to the cave where he met Master Qin Qin for the first time. At this time, There were still some lights in the cave, but when Xiaohua scanned it with his Buddhist awareness, he knew that there was no life in the cave. When he carefully walked into the cave, he found that the whole cave was silent, and there was only the flickering of the lights. Why are there less animal skins in the cave? Xiaohua's eyes swept over and found something different. Then, his eyes fell on the two corpses lying on the animal skins. These two corpses were the same as Qing Ming and the others. Their brains were eaten, and there were no other wounds on their bodies. However, one of the two corpses was holding a slightly bigger brocade bag in his hand, which was similar to the brocade bag that Master and I Qin gave to Xiaohua. Xiaohua put away the corpse and picked up the brocade pouch. He used his divine sense to sweep it out, but he couldn't see what was inside. He understood in his heart that this was probably a soul scholar's storage pouch. He should have used his soul sense to examine it. However, even if Xiaohua could not see anything, he already knew that these two disciples were tidying up the cave. With a sigh, Xiaohua placed everything in the cave into a storage pouch. Then, Xiaohua left the cave and cautiously scanned the valley with his Buddhist sense. In front of him was the location of the soul-refining cave. The entire valley was still pitch black. Although this darkness couldn't block Xiaohua's vision and his Buddhist awareness could see everything clearly, Xiaohua was also clear in his heart that there were many things in this world that couldn't be seen by Buddhist awareness and the naked eye. And this thing was obvious. Right now, it was in this valley where he had just killed someone. With that kind of uneasiness in his bosom, Xiaohua once again flew towards his resting place based on his previous knowledge. The night wind was also a bit weaker at this time, but the sound became increasingly strange. Sometimes it was high, sometimes it was low, sometimes it was light, sometimes it was heavy, and sometimes it was high. It was like the cry of a monster. When Xiaohua arrived, sure enough, he saw 3 corpses lying on the ground, and their state of death was exactly the same as Qing Ming and the others. Their faces were filled with a kind of savageness, as if someone had dug out their brains before they died. This kind of pain was probably the best torture in the world. After putting away the corpses and the items in the cave, Xiaohua muttered to himself, "If Master and I Qin was the only one who died in such a miserable state, then it might have been some kind of torture. But if all of the corpses were the same, then maybe." Xiaohua couldn't help but think back to when he heard Xue Xue talk about how powerful the fire ape was. -11. Chapter 2872. Could it be a demon beast similar to the fire ape? Or a hitorigami? Thinking of the hitorigami, Xiaohua's back immediately broke out in a cold sweat. The hitorigami was a natural spiritual creature, and its divine ability was innate. With Xiaohua's cultivation, he was no match for it. Xiaohua's eyes turned rapidly, looking at the darkness around him. There was no anxiety from the bottom of his heart, and only then did he feel slightly relieved. But then, Xiaohua sneered again. Maybe this is a deceptive tactic. Someone deliberately set up a maze to harm Master Qin, so that no one can guess who did it. But who is it that made things difficult for a master refiner revered by millions of Ming Mountain soul warriors? Thinking of the purpose of Ziming's visit to Master Qin, and some of Ziming's words, Xiaohua gradually had an idea. Who? Just when Xiaohua felt that he had an idea in his heart, a strange feeling arose from the bottom of his heart. He hurriedly raised his head and looked at a stone wall in the distance. This stone wall was dozens of feet in size, and it was somewhat flat. In fact, it was covered with dried vines that made a rustling sound in the night wind. Xiaohua held the wishful steel staff in his hand and flew close to the stone wall. He looked at it with his naked eyes, and his Buddhist awareness also swept through it. He did not see anything strange, but the indescribable feeling just now swept past the front of the stone wall. After thinking for a while, Xiaohua formed a seal and used the earth escape technique to escape into the stone wall. He inspected the stone wall within dozens of feet of it, but still did not find anything. Strange. Is this young master being paranoid? Xiaohua flew out of the stone wall. He didn't dare to look back. Soon after, he went to the other caves and collected the corpses of Master Qin's disciples. Only then did he walk to the front of the soul-refining cave with grief in his heart. These dozens of disciples had all died miserably. Every one of them had their brains dug out and died. Every disciple seemed to be packing their things before they died. However, there was no exception. Not even half of the things in the valley had been packed. Only the soul-refining cave is not checked. Xiaohua looked at the cavern in front of him. The bamboo-shaped soul armament was in his hand, but he didn't know how to activate it. He didn't know how to open the cavern. Right at this moment, a bright light shone from the distant horizon. Then, as if the curtain of light had been pulled open, the surrounding horizon and the valleys at the foot of the mountain were all lit up. The night was about to leave, and a new day was about to arrive in the millions of Ming Mountains. Forget it, Xiaohua remembered Ziming's warning and didn't dare to delay any longer. He activated his magic power and returned to the reception platform without consulting anyone. Young Master Xiao, seeing that Xiaohua is late, Ziming is somewhat anxious and also somewhat worried. He hurriedly says, "Quickly, bring Great Master's disciples." Alas, so many disciples. Back to the embrace of Great God Hutu? Seeing Xiaohua actually take out dozens of corpses in succession, Ziming's gaze also revealed shock. Xiaohua didn't say much and placed the corpses on the ground. According to what he saw, he imitated and arranged them into strange postures. Li Zongbao and Fairy Hong Xia didn't dare to delay and hurriedly came to help. But Ziming, on the other hand, was somewhat absent-minded when he saw so many corpses. Alas, Ziming sighed softly. After a long time, he faintly says, "Although, I don't know the cause of this matter, but it seems it has something to do with my arrival. Let's send Great Master and I Qin back first." Xiaohua looked at the dawn sky. Although he didn't believe Ziming's words, but for the sake of Ziming, and for the sake of his own beautiful dream, Xiaohua was willing to follow the ritual of the millions of Ming Mountains and properly send Great Master and I Qin back to the embrace of Great God Hutu. "Yes, I understand." As Ziming spoke, she raised both of her hands and her body began to dance. The slight trembling of her mouth sounded like a song, but also like a dance. In Xiaohua's eyes, this dance was more like the dance of one's nascent soul. A faint sense of solemnity emerged from Ziming's dance. In Xiaohua's eyes, Ziming's dance didn't give rise to any feelings. On the contrary, looking at Ziming's movements and her swaying black hair, Xiaohua seemed to be able to see Ziming's confession to heaven and earth, the sorrow in her heart, and the admiration she had for Great Master and I Qin. Xiaohua was even surprised to find that he could see Ziming's worship for Great God Hutu from her dance. Xiaohua had a feeling of enlightenment. The earliest things in this world were definitely not words, nor were they words. This dance was probably the most primitive way for people to express their emotions. Using this as an extension, Xiaohua naturally thought of the way of cultivation. The Taoist sect used words, or words to pass down their teachings. The Buddhist sect passed down their teachings by picking flowers. The soul cultivation method used the dance of one's nascent soul. Perhaps, it directly pointed to the essence of cultivation. Could it be that soul cultivation is... Xiaohua suddenly had a strange thought. Could it be that the 12 great gods are comparable to my Taoist sects? That's right, who is the founder of my Taoist sect? I've never heard of him before. Great Master In I Qin's death was also a kind of trigger for Xiaohua. Ziming's dance was also a kind of trigger. Xiaohua couldn't help but have the impulse to let his imagination run wild. Just as he was thinking of some inexplicable things, Ziming had already stopped. He saw her prostrate on the ground with great sincerity, facing the almost overflowing sunlight in the east and muttering something. Boom! Ziming didn't seem to do anything, but a cluster of jade-green flames appeared out of thin air and enveloped the corpses of Great Master and I Qin and the others. In the midst of the flames, the corpses of Great Master and I Qin and the others were instantly reduced to dust. At this moment, the brilliant sunlight pierced through the sky like a bright sword, and an orange sun appeared in the clear sky in the east. A rather strange feeling arose from the bottom of Xiaohua's heart. Xiaohua couldn't help but open the Dharma eye on his left hand. Xiaohua couldn't help but cry out. About 90 feet above everyone's head, a crack was closing. Dozens of blurry figures had disappeared in that place. A rather tall figure was looking back. Wasn't that great master in I Chin's face? Xiaohua beside him, Fairy Hongxia's face was also solemn. Hearing Xiaohua's cry, she hurriedly asked in a low voice. I'm fine, although Xiaohua's eyes were filled with astonishment. A smile appeared on his face and he slightly shook his head. Seeing that Xiaohua didn't say anything, Fairy Hongxia didn't ask any more questions. She looked at the jade-green flames again. As the corpses of Great Master in I Chin and the others disappeared, the jade-green flames also gradually disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Xiaohua used his Dharma eye to look up again. Like the jade-green flames, the crack disappeared without a trace. It seems this situation is very familiar. Xiaohua frowned slightly and thought to himself. It seemed that he had seen this situation before. Master Xiao. Just as Xiaohua was about to recall, Ziming walked in front of Xiaohua and asked in a low voice, "Thank you for your trouble just now. May I know if there's anything unusual in the valley?" After Xiaohua told Ziming what he saw, Ziming was also puzzled. He looked at Xiaohua, then at Fairy Hongxia and Li Zongbao, and said hesitantly, "I think." Great Master and I Chin seemed to have sensed that something was wrong and was about to leave. It was at this moment that she met with a calamity? Yes, I think so too. Li Zongbao nodded. But Fairy Hongxia disagreed. If Great Master and I Chin had sensed that something was wrong, why didn't she leave with us? Instead, she waited for us to leave before making this plan? Xiaohua restrained himself for a moment and did not tell her about Great Master and I Chin's request. At this time, he actually understood that Great Master and I Chin must have foreseen something, and even foreseen the death of all the disciples in the valley. That's why he entrusted his legacy to me. However, Xiaohua was also puzzled. Since Great Master and I Chin knew something, why didn't she leave with them? What if she left with them? Thinking of this, Xiaohua was shocked again. If Great Master and I Chin left with them, perhaps they would all die inexplicably here, right? Perhaps Great Master and I Chin knew that if she left with us, we would definitely die. She didn't want to drag us along and ruin our lives? Ziming bit her lips and whispered. Unexpectedly, she had the same idea as Xiaohua. The question now is, Li Zongbao narrowed his eyes and said lightly, "Who killed Great Master and I Chin? Was it a demonic beast or a human?" Yes, the thing that ate human brains was definitely a demonic beast. Ordinary soul cultivators, and sword cultivators would not have such a hobby. If it was a demonic beast, then what was the meaning of Great Master and I Chin's talisman? Fairy Hongxia whispered, "Maybe it was a trick to set up a maze, to hide the real culprit." I'm also inclined to think so. Xiaohua nodded slightly. Judging from the situation in the valley, it's very likely that many people attacked at the same time to catch Great Master and I Chin and the others off guard. But Great Master and I Chin has always been famous in Ming Mountains. Ziming whispered in disbelief. Heh, for fame, for profit. What can't she do? Li Zongbao sneered. Perhaps Great Master and I Chin blocked someone's path and did something that someone didn't want her to do. Hiss. Hearing this, Ziming was shocked. He looked up at the rising sun and said, "Young Master Xiao, we can't stay here for long. If that person could kill Great Master and I Chin so easily, we are no match for him. Besides," Ziming hesitated for a moment and didn't say anything more. Then, he pointed in another direction and said, "Young Master Li, thank you for your trouble. We'll leave from there." Okay. Li Zongbao wasn't surprised by Ziming's change of direction. He immediately activated the flowing cloud airship that he hadn't put away. When the four of them stepped on the airship, it hurriedly flew in another direction, leaving the empty welcoming platform to welcome the rising sun. Only the valley below the welcoming platform was left crying in the morning breeze, as if mourning the fate of the master of the valley, and also as if retelling the vicissitudes of life. -11. Chapter 2873. After flying far away, Xiaohua retracted the Buddhist scents he had left on the reception desk. He still felt lucky, hoping that he could find traces of the murderer before he left. However, he was still disappointed. The murderer was very careful. Not only did he not leave any traces, but he also left immediately after the attack. How could he let Ziming and the others, who had arrived late, find traces of him. Looking at Ziming's sorrowful expression, Xiaohua said in a low voice, Ziming, this matter is already like this. It's useless for us to think too much. Although this is the first time this Xiao has met Grandmaster Ku Qin, Grandmaster's character has left an indelible impression in Xiao Mao's heart. What we need to do now is to pull ourselves together and find the real culprit as soon as possible to avenge him. Alas, Ziming heard and sighed. Who is the murderer? It's really confusing and hard to say. However, I thought about it just now. In fact, Master may not be unable to write down the murderer's name or more clues. Young Master Xiao, look at Master's calm expression, as if everything was within his expectations. He didn't even have the thought of asking others to avenge him. See, that's right. Hearing this, Xiao Hua's heart trembled. Isn't that right? That day, Grandmaster Ku Qin had entrusted his legacy to him for no reason at all. Obviously, he had sensed something, but he had never mentioned anything about wanting this Xiao to take revenge for him. And at that time, he probably didn't know that he had encountered the sacrificial knight, right? In fact, the old man is also thinking of trying to escape from the valley. That was Master's idea. Since we encountered it, we can't just stand by and watch. Otherwise, how can we face Master? Xiaohua thought for a while and shook his head. Alas, Master is merciful. He doesn't want to drag others down because of his own matters. Ziming said with emotion. Even he couldn't resist the murderer. Young Master Xiao, and I may not be a match for him. If Master Kachin knew this, he wouldn't have warned us. He didn't even want to board our airship. Hearing this, Xiao Hua's heart moved, and he asked, This Xiao has only seen Grandmaster Kachin refine tools, but I have never seen him fight. Grandmaster Ku Qin only said that he has cultivated to the full reality realm. So, Grandmaster Ku Qin should be an expert, right? How do you classify your 1,000,000 soul warriors in Ming Mountains? Is there also the Qi refinement, foundation establishment, and nascent soul stages of the Tao sect? When Ziming heard this, she bit her lips slightly and did not answer Xiaohua's question. Instead, she continued, Actually, in the end, I still feel that I've implicated Master Go Qin. If it wasn't for this concubine begging him to refine a weapon, he wouldn't have died an unnatural death. It's all my fault. Sigh Ziming, don't blame yourself too much. Xiao Hua understood that this was a knot in Ziming's heart and comforted him. Everything in this world is caused by karma. Ziming had already planted this seed when he first visited Master and I Qin. Master and I Qin's death has already been decided. At that time, I thought that Great Master Hua Qin still had 2 more chances to refine spirit treasures. This time, I came with the shaman token to meet you. Moreover, the Soulfall lamp is not only useful for me to take over the Back Earth stronghold, it is also related to my greatest wish in this life. Ziming couldn't help but become excited when she mentioned her greatest wish. That's true. Xiao Hua looked at Li Zongbao, who was steering the boat, and Fairy Hongxia, who was nodding at him, indicating for him to comfort Ziming. He then said, Master Ku Qin did not agree to your request previously, and it was because he had 2 chances to refine spirit treasures. However, during this period of time, there must have been a second chance to refine spirit treasures. He agreed to wait for you to come back for the 3rd time. He obviously only had 1 last chance left. He obviously knew that as long as he helped you repair the Soulfall lamp, his life essence would be exhausted. However, he still agreed to it. Obviously, he had already made preparations to return to the embrace of great God Ho Tu. But I still brought young Master's spring returning pill, Ziming said again. Yes, this is the real cause and effect. Xiao Hua nodded. Although you obtained the spring returning pill from Ziyi, and Ziyi also went to Sky Patrol City to meet me, but all of this can't prevent the karma of Master Ku Qin's death. Didn't you see? Before Master Ku Qin died, he had already seen all of this clearly in his heart. He didn't even have the slightest bit of resentment in his heart, so why do you feel so conflicted? Young Master Xiao, where did the spring returning pill go? Ziming hit the nail on the head. If there were demon beasts coming for the spring returning pill, then, if I gave the spring returning pill to Master Ku Qin, wouldn't I be sending Master Ku Qin to his death? Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. Obviously, This was also a kind of cause and effect. However, before Xiao Hua could say anything, Fairy Hong Xia, who was next to him, chimed in, "Elder sister, all the causes and effects are intertwined. It's hard to understand. However, elder sister, think about it again. Master Ku Qin's entire life was devoted to others. For you and the millions of spirit warriors of Ming Mountain, he was never stingy with his life essence. This is a good cause. It's because of this good cause that he passed away during the sacrificial night of Great God Ho Tuesday. This is a rare opportunity for a spirit warrior. Isn't this the good cause that Master Ku Qin pursued his entire life? All of this is because Great God Ho Tu remembered Master Ku Qin's kindness. Elder sister's matter was done by Great God Ho Tu. What does it have to do with elder sister? Good. Xiao Hua clapped his hands. Hong Xia is right. Ziming, do you understand? Yes, I understand. Ziming sighed. But in my heart, I still feel sad. After all, I'm separated from Master Ku Qin. When I see him again, I don't know what will happen. Master has his own path. Ziming has his own path, and Ziyi also has his own path. Why should there be any intersection? Xiao Hua said indifferently. Then, he pointed his finger forward and said, besides, from today onwards, you and I may have all kinds of paths. Our paths are all connected to the heavens, but there may not be any intersection. If you lament for my future, and I wish for your future, isn't it beneficial? Master Ku Qin asked for benevolence, and got benevolence. He comforted us and didn't board the airship. How can we, under his great kindness, have any doubts? Forget it. I know you because of Ziyi. That's all I have to say. You can think about it yourself. Young Master Xiao, Ziming's eyes flashed with tears. She nodded and said, I've learned. I'll remember Master's words, and let the people of Hutu stronghold live peacefully and peacefully under my control. Good. Xiao Hua smiled and nodded. Ziming forced a smile onto his face as he said, You wanted to know about the cultivation levels of soul cultivators, right? I'll have to disappoint you. My soul cultivation method is the 9 heavens of the spirit origin. When I'm in the 6 heavens of the spirit soul, I'm called a soul scholar. When I'm in the 3 heavens of the spirit soul, I'm called a shaman. As for the division between soul scholars and shamans, there's no further division. In addition, the depth of soul cultivation method is different from the Taoist sect's method. The 9 heavens of the spirit origin and soul techniques are separated. Even shamans, if they don't practice soul techniques, I'm afraid they won't be a match for soul scholars. Or if they're both soul scholars, if they don't compete, it's impossible to know each other's depth. Moreover, soul techniques are also divided. Only when 2 soul scholars use the same soul technique can the strength of 2 soul scholars be distinguished. Oh, so it's like that. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to speak, Li Zongbao said indifferently, Xiao Hua, don't ask too much. If you want to know the depth of a soul scholar, there's a chance in front of you. What? Xiao Hua was stunned. He swept his Buddhist awareness forward and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. About 10 miles ahead, a vague human figure was standing in midair. This figure was surrounded by a thick black fog, so Li Zongbao couldn't see his face. Although he didn't know whether this figure was looking for trouble, how could Li Zongbao not be vigilant when he was right in front of the flying boat? Young Master Li. Ziming seemed to release her soul remembrance again. She whispered, Let's change direction and see if this soul scholar is looking for us. Yes. Li Zongbao nodded slightly. He urged his magic power, and the airship roared as it charged in the direction Ziming pointed. Huh. Xiao Hua's Buddha's consciousness remained in that place. He saw that the figure didn't move at first, but when the airboat flew a few miles away, the figure suddenly disappeared. When Xiao Hua hurriedly used his Buddha's consciousness to search in front of the airboat, the figure had already arrived in front of the airboat. This figure's speed wasn't necessarily fast, but its whereabouts were really strange. It actually avoided Xiao Hua's Buddhist awareness. It wasn't inferior to the demon realm's concealment techniques. It seems we don't have to hide anymore. Xiao Hua said indifferently, This soul scholar should be coming for us. Young Master Xiao, this soul scholar looks very powerful. Ziming bit her lips and said, Let's turn back. The airship should be faster than his flying speed. It doesn't matter. Xiaohua shrugged. I'm going to Huta Stronghold to see Zai, so I'll send Ziming back while I'm at it. It's best if we don't provoke the soul scholars of Ming Mountain. Yes, thank you, young master, Ziming said in a low voice with a rare smile on her face. But when she raised her head and released her soul sense, as if to search for the right direction, her face suddenly lost all color and turned deathly pale. Ziming? Seeing this, Xiaohua hurriedly released his Buddhist awareness. However, not to mention 10 kilometers, even within 100 kilometers, there didn't seem to be anything strange, except for that strange figure that was still hovering in the air. Young Master Xiao, Ziming bit her lips and said, the whereabouts of my soul scholars, or many of my Ming Mountain soul scholars can shield themselves from the Tao sect's divine awareness. If they don't want to be discovered by cultivators like you, they can hide with a simple soul technique. Moreover, young master's divine awareness has already been injured? So that's how it is. Xiaohua suddenly understood. No wonder the Tao sect's cultivators were so afraid of the millions of Ming Mountain soul scholars. This soul technique was really mysterious. When facing a soul scholar, cultivators really didn't have the confidence and were somewhat afraid. -11.